Hey, what's good? His name is Carlos Alvarez Aranyos, and he is the founder of American Opposition. American Opposition is a nonprofit, non-connected political action committee created to counter the rise of fascism in the United States of America. I can't believe that we need an organization like this in the United States. I can't believe it. Carlos is also a globally renowned strategic communications professional who has a knack for adventure, but adventure, in my opinion, might be a little bit of an understatement to describe him. Cefore Explosives joins me for this conversation with Carlos Alvarez Aranyos. Before we get into it, remember to go to coconutjustice.com to get you some clothes that I think would look good on you. Let's go. All right, folks. We're going to get right into this because something tells me that this young man just can't wait to get a lot off his chest. And every speech I have seen him do, he gets it moving, and he gets it moving quick. So you guys, welcome to the show, Carlos Alvarez Aranyos.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And we're going to get into that. But first, let's also welcome Cefore Explosives.
What's cracking, everybody?
Yes, sir. So yeah, I had a little extra time before the show, and I started doing a little research and everything. And this is the first time on this channel that we're going to do a wardrobe change because my boy Carlos comes out looking clean as hell. So I'm going to slip this off, and I'm going to slip this on. We're about to go to work, son.
Oh, hold on.
That's nice.
Damn, bro, I got to put mine on?
Now put that away.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, see?
I'm kidding.
See, we got.
It's all connected.
Oh, man.
Damn, that looks good on you, man.
You
Properly
see that?
good hat. That is.
Oh,
properly
yeah,
good
sir.
hat.
Sorry.
When I put this on, everybody knows I showed up to do business. Oh, you got a
Do
little
business.
cappy
It's
cap.
time
Look
for
at that.
business.
Look at that Russell Cleveland love right
Got
there.
got a little Russell Cleese. Shout out Russell. Hell yeah, dude.
There we go.
Yeah, so I have been watching a lot of videos and catching up with what Carlos is doing and everything that he's trying to put together and the movement and the momentum that he's been trying to put together. But the first thing I want to talk to him about is family. I have family in Santo Domingo, aka the Dominican Republic, and that's where you come from.
It is, yeah. My family's still there too. It's
Yeah.
actually one of the things that allows me to do this job without too much worry. Is that I don't have I'm not married. I don't have kids,
Mhm.
and that my most of my family's in the Dominican Republic. So
Mm.
I feel less worried about those elements, right? And again, it's interesting that you mentioned family because for me, growing up in the Dominican Republic under a guy named Joaquin Balaguer, he was exactly what Donald Trump wishes he could be, right? An elected fascist.
Mhm.
And so when people ask me like, how do you know it's fascism? I remember.
Yeah.
It's an interesting experience to like come at this from the perspective of memory.
Mhm.
And you talk about Dominican politics. Dominican politics is a gift. I have a bachelor's and a master's in political science and political management, but everything I learned about politics, I learned from living in the Dominican Republic because you see it very, very clearly. I also was a part of an oligarchical family. My uncle was Oscar de la Renta, the fashion designer. My father was the most successful investment banker maybe in the history of Latin America. A genius guy who got recruited to go to MIT from the Dominican Republic, and they called him Little Gray Cells at MIT. The dude was genuinely a genius, but he became very successful, and then became part of a political process where the president basically took everything from him. So it's interesting to have witnessed politics in its naked form, to have grown up in an oligarchy and understand what drives the oligarchs. to have grown up under fascist dictator who was elected, which is what Trump. So again, it's funny to look at my condition of life, the fact that I don't have a wife or kids, that my family's abroad. And I'm not a big believer in destiny, but you start putting all these things together. The fact that I did this before, and we'll talk probably about my work in 2020, but like I've done this before. I've beaten Donald Trump before. All of the conditions of my life have sort of brought me to this place where I don't have to guess at what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know the danger we face. I've lived it. And to find myself in a position to be able to help and to leverage all of that experience is really surprising, frankly. And like, honestly, in some ways, you just kind of pinch yourself separate from the work itself. Like, man, I get to exist in this moment and in this place, and I get to contribute in this way. And like, if that's not a good thing for a piece of carbon from the Dominican Republic, that is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of surreal, it's got an element.
And who was it? Wasn't it? I don't know if it's the same dude that you're talking about, but Santo Domingo or the Dominican Republic had someone who was acting like a Donald Trump, but they broke into the Capitol and dragged his ass out into the street, and they took care of business.
Well, yeah, no. So that Trujillo was the
Trujillo.
dictator. And then, but he had a vice president named Joaquin Balaguer, who was his vice. And when Trujillo was deposed from power, another government was put in that had nothing to do with him. But eventually Balaguer, who had been his vice president, was elected president a few times. And Balaguer was blind and old as dirt. So physically not very capable, but mentally all there. And he ran that country in a unique way that, it was interesting because like you grow up and there are limits to your freedom and where they are and you don't really cross them. But they're there, and that's all it takes. It's literal fear. I will never forget one time I saw, and I didn't know who the guy was, but I saw a dude walking, and suddenly I see a motorcycle cop pull up next to him, and then I see a pickup truck pull up behind the motorcycle cop, and the cop gets out, shoots the guy in the head. They throw him on the back of the pickup, and then they drive away. And that was it. That was the disappearing of this person. And I guarantee you, like, no book in history will ever have that person's name, the reason why they were disappeared.
100%.
They just were not there anymore. And so it's an interesting thing to come from, to like learn this shit in a lived experience way.
So
and then to be presented with the opportunity to deal with it is really interesting.
So you see this playbook played out like your entire life. So what does your family say that the role that you're playing over here, trying to I don't want to say save the day, but to lead the charge, you know what I'm saying? Literally, you're just trying to save the country right now.
Yeah. Well, first, my dad is probably more on the Republican side. That's another thing I understand sort of from lived experience, is that we Latinos are not simple creatures.
Right.
And when it comes to racism, when it comes to oligarchy, when it comes to a lot of these things, we're actually I use the word sophisticated, but I don't mean it in a positive way. Our racism looks at America's racism and goes, I'm going to triple down. And I'm going to do it in ways that are much more subtle. Right.
Yeah. 100%.
And more systemized and like harder to eliminate, because it's not as simple as we brought over slaves. And, the Dominicans and others have created huge constructs to justify horrible behavior for generations. And in some ways, they don't face the same pressures towards greater justice or greater accountability that we do here in the US. So like those systems are not changing anytime soon in Latin America. They're much more endemic. They're much more connected to how things function. It's like a caste system like they have in India, where you're kind of born in your station and there's very little ability to ever leave it. But you don't notice that. You're right. You're existing within it, and you're locked on an island with other people. So there's also the island mentality and a lot of other shit. So it's interesting because in some ways I feel like the American version is the simple version of this problem. And I say that on many fronts. Like, dude, I've seen politics, man. I've seen politics, you know. My father was a conductor of politics, and I would see I've seen the deals be made and the sausage be made. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
and even though my dad and I have never agreed politically, and certainly, in, you know, since probably the first Bush administration, I'm thankful that I learned from him what that actually looked like, what the world actually runs like, in a sense, because you can't fake that. There's a lot of things you can't fake. You know, my uncle was Oscar de la Renta, and people talk about sophistication. You know, I was just having a conversation with somebody about this idea of, in Spanish, we call it concepto. But what it is vision, is creative vision. Like, why is Anna Wintour the editor of Vogue, and why is she good at her job? Can't other people pick pretty pictures or create a unifying theme for a magazine, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the problem is, it's kind of like stupidity. Smart, you have to be smart to know you're stupid, and you kind of have to have creative vision to understand what it is, right? Because otherwise people will tell you, well, we can do the same thing you just did. I just ordered the same people to do the same things. And once you start to deconstruct things, you realize relationships matter, experience matters, wisdom matters. And we're living in an age now where, like, this generation wants to be influencers. And if you think of the design of an influencer, it's somebody who can't really do the thing, right? So, like, or they can't do it well enough. So you can make more money being hot and playing golf than playing golf professionally on the PGA Tour. You're going to go and be hot and play golf, or whatever the construct is.
Right.
Yeah.
Not for anything, but there's way more money being a golf influencer, but that's beside the point.
And there's definitely more money versus practice time.
Right.
Like input, output, it's way ahead.
Yeah.
Right. But we're living in an influencer culture. And so when we talk about all the shit that we're starting to talk about, which is like where I come from and why I bring to this, I grew up in the Dominican Republic. I grew up in sort of the right family to understand the other side, because our fight isn't against Trump. It's against an oligarchy. It's about entrenched politics, which I've seen. I know how the sausage is made. You talk about having some sense of a creative vision for how to produce, right? How to produce a resistance, because it doesn't happen automatically. It requires work, and you have to manifest it, and you have to put the right pieces together, and you have to, leadership is 10% public, 90% private, right? It's about what you can do on the phone are you able to create a coalition in 3 days and get it out the door and keep it together, all that kind of stuff. And nobody sees that. And so, but what I'm lucky is that I was gifted the experience on all of the levels and all of the areas to be able to do this job. Leading up to like 2020 and last year, when I did other organizations that were related, kind of. And I just feel very interestingly blessed to have been put in a position to be able to leverage all of that in service of other people. I really think that's a privilege that would have been crazy for me to assume would have happened once, let alone twice. Because in 2020, I played a similar role, and we can talk about it. But it's interesting to have like this two cracks at the same problem from different perspectives, but leveraging all of that experience is. So you know, to your point, I think it's weird, and it's I'm very lucky, I think, that I get to like live my life in a way that influences whatever happens. At the same time, I very, very, very clearly understand the sort of the consequentiality of that, right? Whether it's the death threats or the constant pressure, or you know, of the challenges.
Is that a problem? Is death threats and all that stuff? Is that a problem for you?
I get about between 75 and 200 death threats a week. It's not a problem. I mean, it's my life. Is it a problem? I don't think it's a problem. Like, I'm not afraid that way. I've been shot at a lot. I've worked in 6 conflict areas. I've taken fire from a tank once. That wasn't fun.
Oof. Where was that? Can you say?
In Georgia, and when the Russians invaded.
Whoa.
I took incoming from a Russian tank. And
and
it's funny because the main thing you learn is that it's not like the movies.
Hey, for the record, I was in the military. Never did I get. They only practiced dropping bombs on us. That's all they did.
You didn't walk away.
They never shot a tank at us.
Yeah, and it wasn't, to be fair, I don't think they were shooting at me. They just got it very reasonably close, you know. I
Yeah,
flew
I
through
don't
the
care.
air and
I don't care.
what you realize is, like, in the movies, whenever something blows up, you're like, no, that's not right. That's not right.
Yeah.
Because I have felt my bones shake inside my body, and I don't know how to explain that to people. I have physically felt my bones literally rattle. You
Jiggle.
know? Yeah, and you go, none of that is supposed to be happening inside of me. Like, you know, that's the feeling that I remember.
How quickly after that did you grab a glass of milk?
No, to be honest, I passed out for a while. I was out,
I
and then
bet.
I came to, and I was about a block and a half away, so I didn't even take the brunt of it.
Damn.
Yeah, it was. I've seen too many things in the Congo. I saw a lot of things I didn't want to see. In Guinea, I was there doing a coup d'état and horrible shit, man. But again, you realize, like, how much worse things could get, because part of what I always think about is, like, you know, in Gaza, the situation happening in Gaza. I worked in Lebanon. I negotiated with Hezbollah to get eye and ear checks for all the kids of Lebanon at one point in my career, and and it's funny because, like, you're in a war zone and you're a block away from the fighting, and cafes are open and you're just having lunch.
That's
It's
what's
like,
wild.
it's a very wild thing. And,
That's what's
and, like,
wild.
right. And what's funny to me is, like you can't be and going back to my original point in this answer is, you can't fake that. You can't
Yeah.
go back and change that to make it something it's not. You can't be an influencer or be full of shit and do the real work, because the real work requires, or at least demands, real experience, real wisdom
Mhm.
derived from real experience.
Mhm.
What have you done? Where have you been? Have you? I mean, I distinctly remember I was heading down to Guinea, and I had a document from the Ghanaian embassy in Paris saying what I was doing, my mission, kind of my mission. And I had another document from the charity I was representing, and that was my mission statement. And I'm supposed to be protected by these things. And I'm
Mhm.
at the airport in Paris, and I get a phone call from the embassy saying, don't go because we can't guarantee your safety anymore.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
And I'm like, but I already checked my bag, so I'm just gonna go.
That's all right.
You know what I mean?
Were you dressed up like
That's what-
Rambo? Like, were you ready to go?
That was the thing. No, it gets worse, because then I forgot to go to the ATM because I had wanted to pull out $300 in cash so that I would have cash. Because when you land in Guinea, you need cash.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if anybody was meeting me.
Oh shit.
And the only person that met me was a 4% Christian country or something like that. But the priest of the local Catholic mission happened to show up at the airport. Guys, I landed in Conakry, Guinea at like 7 or 8 p.m. at night from Paris. I've been told that they can no longer protect me. Don't go. The only real reason I went is my bags are already checked. And I'm just being real with you. That was the main thought in my head, was that would be a very inconvenient thing for me to try to pull my bags out. Because I was connecting. I was living in Monaco, so I connected from Nice to Paris. And I'm like, if they don't get my bags, then they're in Guinea, and I'm
How
not in
nice
Guinea,
was your
like,
luggage?
to be honest, I
He had
wish I
Oscar de la Renta luggage.
No, my luggage has always been nice, but it wasn't even about the luggage. It was, I mean, I mentioned that only to say, like, that's who I was at 26 years old, and whatever
Yeah.
age I was, and 27 or something like that. And if you haven't been in the airport and gotten that phone call with that actual situation,
Yeah.
and then done the stupid thing and gotten on the plane, and then gone and worked during a coup d'etat and talked to generals who were trying to remove the president, and eventually put their kids in your school so that they wouldn't blow up your school, and then gotten sick from, like, food that while you were watching them prepare it, you went, that is a bad idea. And then you ate it anyway.
Oh shit.
And then you ended up with like 6 months of mono, but it wasn't mono. It was related to mono,
Something
you know?
like
And, like, there's no replacing life. And even when you're a fucking moron like I was at that moment, that serves me now. And so my point is, like, experiences, we're living in an age of bullshit when we need experience more than ever, you know?
Yeah.
I just wrote that down. Life prepares you for now. So every situation that we're in, we're like, man, why the hell am I in doing this? Why am I going through this right now? God's preparing you. You're getting prepared for the next.
Right.
Every situation, for some reason, somehow, I just added a tool to my toolbox.
Yep.
Right.
And then when shit hits the fan, like you said,
And you just never guess. Yeah.
in those split seconds, you know how to react.
And not
Right.
just that,
Or at
but
least-
a lot of
Or at
times,
least you don't panic. You can think.
a lot of times on this channel, we say that. We say, how do you know how you're going to respond to a situation unless you put yourself in that situation?
You can't ask ChatGPT, that's for sure.
Right.
You cannot.
And the worst part is, like, if you haven't made real mistakes where your life is on the line, you don't want to be practicing with the first time out when it's serious.
Yeah, for real.
Like, I got on a plane, but yeah, if you land in the airport in Conakry, you're still at an airport. Like, it's not, the situation doesn't degrade from 100 to 0.
Mhm.
There are levels of degradation. And being able to know early on where the decision points are that actually change the conditionality for you is super important, because you want to get close to the problem. Otherwise, you can't solve it. But you don't want to get so close that you become part of it.
Mhm.
And it's an interesting challenge. Or like operating in war zones, I learned a lot about getting super close to the problem without being in the fight.
Mhm.
Because as soon as you're in the fight, then your problem becomes surviving the fight.
Mhm.
If your task is to end the fighting or to in some way improve conditions on the ground, you have to learn how to come up to it but not join it. And that's and sometimes you're very passionate about one side or the other, or whatever the case may be, and you feel that you want to. But I wasn't a soldier in those moments, and that wasn't my task. And so it's important to remember, it's important to be able to contextualize yourself and your goals when the plan is out the window because the shots have been fired or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And I find that kind of wisdom, again, it's sadly learned in hardship, but it can't be practiced. The first time out shouldn't be when there's real consequences on the table, especially in a situation like today, where like the future of the United States is literally the stakes, right? And my God, man, so many people are coming to this without knowing what the fuck they're doing, or with self-interest as their primary driver. And I'm like, with stakes like that, man, we got to get rid of that as quickly as possible.
So when you got remove the regime, no kings, and every step that led up to, you know, the first rally, march, protest, and you have all these people that have been in those situations that you have been through, like those types of situations. You got veterans, you got people that led coalitions, you got activists, you got all kinds of people that have that life prepared me for this moment.
Right.
So how do you get you like delegate, like, or how do you come up with that plan with all these ideas?
So what's nice about it is that people tend to connect strategy with operations, and those two things are not the same thing. The first thing I knew was that we needed a strategy to defeat Donald Trump. And by the way, that is a very different thing than a strategy to pretend or to represent the problem or to whatever. So the way this normally works, just for the edification of everybody, I'm a strategist by trade. This is what I do for a living. Usually that means I do it behind the scenes. The difference now is that I'm operating in public, and that changes. It actually kind of changes a few things in terms of how I do it, but it doesn't change what I do. The key is I had a very clean vision for how to remove Donald Trump. That is not a single, the way to think about a strategy is where you want to end up, and tactics are how you get there. That's the way I think about it. So if I was giving you guys a strategy for living your lives, I might say, Cefore, I want you to imagine the coolest old man you can imagine, and then make every decision he would have made, regardless of context, from here until the day you reach whatever age he is in your imagination, right? And if you do that your entire life, let's say you start at the age of 10 because your father tells you that, and you do it until you're 90, there's really, as long as you don't make an exception, you're guaranteed to become the guy, because the guy and the decisions are connected to each other. If we are the product of our decisions, then keeping faith with your goal is like a compass that corrects your course at every decision point, right?
Right.
So that's the way to think of strategy. And so what when I started building the American Opposition Project, the thing it was before it was anything else was a vision of where I wanted us to end up.
Okay.
And that was, and the most important element of that is that Donald Trump is not the problem. Donald Trump is actually a very helpful representation of the problem, or he's literally orange. He's literally ridiculous. And by the way, we are the luckiest nation in history that we got this buffoon.
Yeah.
If we had gotten Barack Obama, but like evil Obama, this would be much harder.
It'd be a wrap.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
But my understanding of this problem is more about like, what is it that is impairing people? What is it that's causing us to be this way too? And, you know, and you see other symptoms. A Kim Kardashian country, a country that is entertained by Kim Kardashian elects Donald Trump, right?
Yep.
So it's an atmospheric problem. It's all of us in this together. And the main conditionality that has happened is that people have forgotten the purpose for their lives, or they never had one in the first place. And they feel exposed by a competition that was thrust upon them that was global, and it was an ego competition. So if you think about it, when I went to high school, my problem, if I chose to think,
where did you go to high school?
Kent School in Connecticut.
Okay.
Well, so I came to the U.S. to go to boarding school when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I was a gifted tennis player, and I went to a place called Harry Hubman Tennis Academy. I was 2 years ahead.
You literally do everything.
Got a hell of a handle.
No, guys, all I will say is nobody's ever actually asked me these questions about where I come from. But my life is the craziest fucking story possible. It's unbelievable. Even I look at it and go, that's not a believable story. You know what I mean? Thank God I have photos and shit, because none of it is believable. But I was 2 years ahead. I went to high school at first at a boarding school in Connecticut because my Uncle Oscar lived in a place called Kent, Connecticut. And so I went to the school down the hill from his house. 3 semesters in, they kicked me out, and I went to Ojai Valley School in Ojai, California for 1 semester because my brother had gone. And they allowed me to finish the year where I got kicked out so that I wouldn't lose it.
You got kicked out all the way across the other side of the country?
Yeah, literally. I got kicked out of school in Connecticut and went to California. And I walked onto campus and I saw these 2 girls who were, because in Kent, you have to wear a tie and shit. And then suddenly I get there and there's these 2 beautiful girls, and one of them was blonde and the other one was Latina. And my dad was like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I went, "I am going to be just fine."
Just fine.
California is awesome. I was in a t-shirt and it was amazing. Then I went back to the Dominican Republic for my junior and senior year of high school. And I ended up publishing the largest newspaper in the country, which is also the largest newspaper in the Caribbean, on the internet. And this was in 1995, before like the New York Times was online. I mean, I'm not sure what year they went on, but it would have been right around there. So I was a brainy kid. I was 2 years ahead in school, but I lacked discipline partly because I was too young. And I went to college at 16.
I was going to say, there's a word for that. It's called travieso.
Yeah, I was definitely that. I was many things, but I was also hyperlexic. I'm a bit, I'm hyperlexic, and as my therapist says, probably on the spectrum, but nobody would have diagnosed it at the time.
Yeah.
I tend to interrupt people. I tend to talk a lot. Because my brain like finishes their thoughts for them, and they don't know that I'm listening very carefully, but in my own.
You and me both.
So, right.
Sorry, Mike.
That's why I was playing.
That's why Mike feels uncomfortable. He's like, "Yep."
Damn it. They know everything. They know the start and finish.
All these fucking Carloses, man. I went to, I forget where I was in the story and why I was talking about my
You were just leaving California.
Yeah.
And you went back.
I published a newspaper.
Online. Yeah.
And then I went to college in Massachusetts, no, but I was talking about something before this, which led me into talking about school, which I forget. Anyway, but graduated from high school in the Dominican Republic, went to the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. And that's where my life started to get really weird, because my family basically had a permanent stay arrangement at the Carlisle Hotel, which is the nicest hotel in New York. I found that I could just go and stay there basically whenever I wanted. So I commuted. I took all my classes on Tuesday and Thursday at UMass, and I commuted and lived in New York City from Thursday night to Monday night, basically. And not all the time and not perfectly, but that was sort of the design of my college life. And I had this duality where, on the one hand, I was Oscar's nephew in New York with access, living at the Carlisle Hotel, which, I mean, again, you talk about, dude, I used to sit like, I used to sit next to Daniel Patrick. I used to sit next to Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who was a senator from New York, because he liked to use me as a buffer. He would sit at the end of the bar at Bemelman's Bar, and he would sit me next to him. So that, and then if a constituent came and tried to talk to him, my main job was to sound like I was talking to him so that he wouldn't be bothered. And then if the constituent made it through me, he would just mumble and pretend to be drunk. And, and I learned more about politics from Daniel Patrick Moynihan and from the Dominican Republic and from this world. And again, like, my uncle used to introduce me to all my girlfriends, so they were all models. And I was like going to college at UMass and being a regular college kid at UMass. And then on the weekends, let's go out with a supermodel to go to, to Daniel for dinner. And then I would bring him back to the hotel and go to the Cafe Carlisle where Bobby Short was this great cabaret singer. And he would watch me come in. And if he liked the girl, he'd be like, honey, Carlos asked me to sing this for you. And then he'd get into and I was like, I had got Bobby Short with my closer, you know what I'm saying? And like, I mention all of this because it's like, this is the irreplaceable shit. And you like, I know how the oligarchy works. By the way, I know who Donald Trump is in the context of New York society because I got to live that society at that time. I used to go and sit in the lanes and talk to, the Norman Lears of the world, all the great writers, Christopher Hitchens, all of these people were part of my universe in that. And it sounds like bragging, but it's not, I promise you. What it is that there's some shit in this life that if you don't live it, if you don't know it, nobody can teach it to you.
Right.
And some of it requires money and you can't get access to it. But then again, some people with money never get access to certain things.
100%.
Because a lot of life can't be bought. And it's about other people being invested in you and taking you places. I always found that, like, I lived at a lot of hotels over the years, and, knowing the general manager is great, but if you want your life to be amazing, the valets, the bellhops, and the concierges are the key people who need
the workers.
Right. Because if they're in it with you, then your travesía can become much more acute. and in a way that helps you. In my situation now, I know who Donald Trump is. I know what society he was trying to cater to.
Right.
And how he was doing it. I know what the people.
And the fact that he's angry because they didn't let him into that society.
Right. Exactly.
That's what you're seeing.
Exactly. And my point to you guys is like, when I don't say it lightly when I say that all of these crazy experiences of life, for many of which I can't claim much credit other than having been there and having been game, and I'm Dominican, so I'm always there and I'm always game. But like, the awareness to understand why the oligarchs exist, what they're trying to do, how politics is run in real life, how all these systems work. I'm a narc in a sense, but I'm using that experience. I'm narking to myself. I'm saying I've had this duality throughout my life of living. I've been a cabbie for real, and I've been broke off my ass, and I've gone to bed hungry for lack of money. And I've looked at my bank balance and seen $2 million. Like, those two realities have been part of my existence. I would have never thought that those things would have helped in this way.
Yeah.
If you had asked me, I would have said, well, I can tell you where all the great nightclubs are. I can I have the confidence to walk up to any woman and ask her out. All of these things are skill sets that I would have assumed would have helped me in finding a wife or in becoming more social when I moved to a new town or whatever. The fact that those things are actively helping me fighting the president of the United States and some of the richest people in the world is kind of ludicrous. But it also goes to show that you can't ever really prepare yourself for what you're doing. You just have to absorb and absorb and absorb and keep, because you just never know what the context is going to be, man.
Whoever you believe is driving the bus, whether it's God, Allah, whatever, you have to, like you said, you have to collect that information and be prepared for something because you don't know. I used to think in high school, even though I was doing algebra and I thought it was fun, I'm like, I'm never using this again. And then I
Right,
became a programmer and I
right.
was using algebra almost every day of my life.
Yeah. Thank God I've never had to use algebra ever during my life because I was a computer science major for exactly 1 semester and a half. And then and then I looked at the calculus. You know, it's funny because I'm a pretty smart guy, but I reached the limit on calculus. Like there was a
Yeah.
day when I went, I no longer understand what we are talking about.
Sparks came out and you're
Yeah,
like,
Nothing
I'm
else
going to
to get in
Spanish
there.
class.
I'm gonna go study politics, bro. Yeah,
Where are those girls at that welcome me in here? Let's see.
yeah.
Yeah. Where's that piano player?
No, yeah. Bobby, I need you. Yeah.
But
No,
what
and it's
was it
funny
like
because yeah,
growing
that
up growing up in the way that you did and being able to experience life like you did? What was it that made you be like, even though I can fit in, I'm I'm making big assumptions, but it seems like you had the possibility of maybe hanging out in those cliques, but then you decided to be like, no, 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 we got to make this an even playing field for everybody.
Mm.
What was it that made you think that way?
well, to be fair, the duality I'm talking about goes back to my early life. When I was so my mom and my dad divorced when I was 3 years old. Now, keep in mind, my mother was the daughter of a Hungarian engineer who had been sent by the Soviets to work in the Dominican Republic under Trujillo when he was
Hmm.
building infrastructure, and a Dominican woman. My father was the son of a Dominican engineer who was exiled to Venezuela by Trujillo.
Yeah.
So my father was born in Caracas
Okay.
and eventually made it back to the Dominican Republic. So we're a natively Dominican family, but my parents were unique in a couple of ways. My dad went to MIT on a scholarship. He was so smart. They called him little gray cells at MIT. And I don't know how smart you have to be called little gray cells at MIT, but you got to be pretty fucking smart.
Well,
And they
to
sent
walk
him
through
on
the
a
door is
scholarship.
number one, and then to get a nickname, holy
No,
shit,
and he was offered a scholarship. So it was like he was that smart. And they
he's
found
that
him in the
dude.
Dominican Republic. He was that guy. But my mother was probably a more impressive human in a sense because my mom was a single mother who raised 4 kids.
Hmm.
One from a previous marriage to my dad, and then 3 from the marriage to my dad. What she started, so she was a secretary because she had only been able to go to secretarial school.
Hmm.
So she was a secretary to the head of a bank. That's how she met my dad. He actually went for a loan. But then she developed a very strong interest in new age shit and started reading about it.
Hmm.
And my mom was also hyperlexic. That's a trait I notice now looking back. At the time, I just wonder, why is my mom read like a million books for real? Like the house is full of books and she's read them all. But again, these questions get answered by modern psychology when at the time Dominicans, we didn't even have psychologists. That was called rum. and so, but my mom read everything and she started selling quartz crystals in our living room and eventually 5 stores in a country that called her a witch.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up living with my mom, going to the same school that my father had gone to, because even though my father had become pretty successful by this point, not like absurdly so yet, but he was on the uprise. But he wanted us to get like a proper education, and he had gone to a Jesuit school in Santo Domingo. That was the equivalent of like a poor but tough school in America. I don't know what the exact analogy is. It was really good education, but it was no frills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the Dominican Republic, no frills means no fucking frills, right? So my buddies at school were kids who were walking around without shoes on, sometimes.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like that. This
And
was.
I don't think people understand how desperate
Oh
it
yeah,
is
yeah. No,
in
there is
Santo Domingo.
literally no comparison. Because if you say to me the lower Ninth Ward in New Orleans, I go, there are still elements of the lower
They're
Ninth
still a little
Ward
bit better.
that are nicer
Yeah.
because you guys have power all the time or hot water. Like we
Right.
didn't have hot water. We didn't even have hot water when the power was on. But I grew up with no electricity about half my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was privileged, meaning I was living with my mom. She was lower middle class, but she wasn't broke.
Right.
She was doing things, and my dad would help out and stuff like that. But my point to you guys is that what it netted out in me is the drive, like all in the Dominican Republic, family tend to have a driver and a housekeeper. And the driver in my house stayed with us for like 24 years, a guy named Ortiz, who raised me functionally in a lot of ways. He was my second father.
Mm-hmm.
He was a black man in the Dominican Republic who was trying to get his kids an education. I lived his struggle. We were particularly close. He and I used to go buy rubber together, meaning tires, old tires, because when he would go home from working for us, he would set up barricades.
Wow.
When we would strike, the huelga, Dominican huelga, which is a form of national strike. When people talk to me about general strike today, I think of Ortiz and I think of buying tires. Right? And what's funny is like that was my education in this work that I'm doing now. If you really trace it back, I learned it from Ortiz, who was a big follower of Peña Gómez, who was the black man who was constantly wronged by the white president. Like these dynamics, guys, I have lived them.
Damn.
I have lived them in so many ways. I knew Obama before there was an Obama, because Peña Gómez was the original Obama. He was of Haitian descent. He was an erudite man. He was a man of the people. The most they ever allowed him to be was mayor of Santo Domingo, and that was they barely allowed it. One election, he most definitely won, and they took it away from him. Like, and my point is, like, you get this political education from real fucking life. And it's hard to even talk to Americans about it because even as I'm telling you this story, it's hard for me to mind meld with people and explain what I'm actually fucking talking about.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't lived it, I can't show you. There's no.
It just seems like a Taken. Like it just seems like a movie. You have a specific set of skills,
right?
You know.
And in some ways, because I can't explain it to you, it frustrates me, and it in some ways robs it. In that frustration of trying to figure out how to communicate it, you lose a lot of the substance of what I'm trying to say. And so what I tend to do is not to talk about it as anecdotes, but to say very simply, to a degree that I can't even verbalize, will never be able to verbalize. Every element of the challenge before me, I understand from a place of deep understanding. When I come at this from a duality of life where I lived with my mom at a school where my dad was a backup, but I didn't know that net was there. As a kid, I just felt like I'm a kid from Santo Domingo. I learned how to navigate the streets of Santo Domingo. And by the way, I now do adventures. I drove a smart car through 22 countries, basically around the world. I drove a rickshaw 3,000 miles across India. And people ask me, like, how do you navigate these moments? I'm like, dude, if you can survive in Santo Domingo, if you can learn to drive a car in Santo Domingo, you will never crash anywhere else because it's just not going to happen. To this day, I've never been at fault in a traffic accident. I don't think it could happen because I learned to drive in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic.
Dude,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
you got to be like 140 years old, man.
Exactly. That's kind of what it feels like. And so, yeah, what it feels like is like I've been on deck with a bat that's been weighted.
Yeah.
And now when I come to America, I'm holding a light bat. And I feel invincible in a degree because the experience that I bring to this, even the people that are in this against me, it's not a fair fight.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what I know.
Yeah.
The only part that frustrates me is that some of my allies don't understand where my grounding is on this. And so they tend to question things that I know for sure because they don't know them for sure in the way that I know them for sure.
Because
so part of
I was gonna say real quick, because unfortunately humans they just can't take your word for it. They don't understand that being poor sucks. If you would take my word for it, you wouldn't have to live through that.
Right. And no, because the highest form of intelligence is to learn from the experience of others.
Yeah.
I came up as a hugely privileged child, but in a very underprivileged place. It gave me access to both views in a real way.
Yeah.
I don't have to pretend to be a full-on Dominican. You throw me in our main street is around Lincoln, the main strip down the street. You send me to a colmado, which is our version of a bodega, or you send me to the local sandwich cart, and I sit, and none of those people would ever think this guy has a map. I belong there. That is one of my core places of belonging. It's my country. It's my place. It's my people. I can navigate that world. It's my world.
Yeah.
But I'm also this other person, and this duality is like I'm also my father's son, and I lived at the Carlisle, for Christ's sake, and Oscar de la Renta was my uncle, and I lived in Monaco for 3 years and partied in Saint-Tropez and literally had the most fun anybody's allowed to have in the world. I bought a boat. I named it Topless. I said nobody can wear tops on my boat. I was a young idiot. I went through. I have diplomas over there. The bottom one is from Ferrari for their one of their driver development programs. I drove with Ferrari. I had 2 Ferraris at one point. One old one from 1964. I would drive to Cannes with girls. Like, guys, it was ludicrous in the way that it was ludicrous. And I'm not even apologizing for it because there's nothing to apologize for. But in some ways, it doesn't. If you looked at it from the surface, you might think this guy is not connected to this shit, right? Yeah. And then an interesting thing happened in my life, which is the financial crisis took most of my money. I moved to Washington to work for the Obama administration. Okay. I worked at the Department of Defense on issues of Iraq and Afghanistan, which I understood because I had worked the Middle East. I'm one of the few non-Muslims who has visited Mecca and Medina. I've visited Iran and understand it really well. So I came to this job in the Obama administration through a guy named Chuck Manat, who knew of my writing and wanted me to sort of provide that input. And he was also the chairman of the board of trustees at GW. So I went and got my master's there on his recommendation. And and suddenly I don't have a lot of money, but I'm working in politics, right? And I was gifted at the consulting, the communications thing, which I had already started doing. But now I could bring it to bear on issues that mattered. Then I ended up working for very prominent people that I can't mention on the consulting side for a couple of years in New York. And I really ran out of money. And when I mean ran out, I was dating one of the Victoria's Secret models, and she wanted to go to St. Bart's every weekend. And I was like, hell yeah, we're doing that. And before you knew it, no amount of salary was enough. I ran out of money, straight up. Whatever money I had left, I paid for school. I ended up selling my apartment. I was like, I have no money, so I'm just going to take whatever I can get for the apartment and figure it out. But I ran out. And I signed with a literary agent, and the idea was to come to Boulder to write a book. And I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I moved here, but looked at my bank account. I did that trip to India where I crossed all of India on a rickshaw. And I looked at my balance, and it was like negative $35,000. And I'm like, I need to make money. And
how does it even go that? I can't get away with being 50 under.
Dude, I'm still more than 50 under. 50 is rookie numbers.
No, I meant $50. Yeah, that's
no.
That's how they. That's 50, how they.
Even if you add 3 zeros to the 50, it's still fucking rookie, bro. I'm like,
damn. Keep me in the rookie league on that one, man.
No, dude, totally. No, it's rookie. It's fucking rookie. Just think bigger. No problem.
Try harder. Try harder.
Yeah. If you're gonna get fucked. Get fucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. But my point is, but I had taken a cab to the airport for that India trip. And I'm a naturally curious person, and I don't talking to the cabbie. I'm like, "What's your deal?" And he goes, "I pay a lease. It's weekly, and then I keep whatever's over the lease, you know."
Yeah.
And I said, "How much do you net out?" He goes, $200 to $300 a day. And this was pre-Uber and Lyft, right? So I got back from India and I went to Yellow Cab, and I'm like, "I would like to drive for you." And the guy goes, "I need your resume." And I'm like, I give him my actual resume. He goes, "You're probably overqualified for this." And I'm like, "No, it's exactly the right job."
The dude is looking around. Where's the cameras?
Right. Dude, I ended up becoming the most successful taxi driver in the history of Colorado.
Oh, shit, man.
2 people pooped in my cab. 4 people peed in my cab. and you talk about like a life reset, coming out of the White House and working for literally one of the 10 richest men on earth, to suddenly driving a cab in Boulder, Colorado, and you give people a modicum of power in the backseat of a cab,
Yeah.
and they will fucking abuse it.
Yep.
And you talk about grinding your ego down to nothing, right? It was the most important formative experience of my life. Not that I didn't, up until that point, I theoretically knew I was a sort of a guy, because I'm Dominican and I've always known that I'm planted firmly on the ground. But I had gone on this journey of Monaco and life and boats and Saint Tropez, and I did that really fucking well.
Victoria's Secret
And
models.
I was, yeah. To this, put it this way, my name is Carlos Alberto, which is Charles Albert, and I was named after Prince Charles and Prince Albert of England and Monaco, and I've met both of them. And Albert's a friend of mine. I would classify him as a friend. But the people that I was named after, who were like, or way over there, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm suddenly in social circles running with William and Harry at Bougie's on Tuesday night in London, and all that shit. And then I'm in a cab.
And two people are pooping in your cab.
A couple of people pooped. And no, one of them was totally catatonic until she spoke. She was from the, we used to have to transfer people from the alcohol and recovery to the jail. And this woman just did not want to go. And she stopped me halfway. She's like, I need to get out. I'm like, we're 2 blocks away. And then by the time we got there, she had put out a dookie. Damn. But
that's not
my
code
point
for a
is,
record.
No. My point is that, like, I've learned life in both the duality that continues.
Sure.
To this day, I'm the most successful I've ever been, the most broke I've ever been, probably in real life. But I don't really care, because ultimately, like, that duality, that the fact that you can't categorize it, the fact that, and by the way, from the taxi, I built Boulder Transport into a fairly significant transportation company. And then the pandemic destroyed that, and it's still alive, but I don't make any money out of it. So my the daily grind is mostly about keeping my employees fed, which is enough. But like, I run a nonprofit for profit, which is like a full-time life that I live on top of this other full-time life of trying to run a movement, and then on top of the other full-time life of trying to make enough money consulting to pay for the other 2 lives. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm always in trouble and I'm always challenged. It's never easy. And so what's fucking funny is that when people look at me, they always get a sense that I am perfectly in control. I have confidence. They think this guy never needs help.
Look at the hat, man. Like, that's it, man.
People think I'm all set. Yeah. And the truth is that none of that is true. And I don't lie. I don't, people ask me, I tell them, but they don't seem to want to believe it. And so in an interesting way, in kind of the same way that it's hard to explain my life because I would have to mind meld, and it's hard to explain how all of this experience serves me in this moment, because again, if you don't have it, it's hard to explain it. People already read me as arrogant, which is not a thing I think, but people read it that way. So it's especially hard for me to talk about myself without sounding like an asshole.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right. She has very strong opinion.
There's a big difference.
Right. But I say all of that to say, like, dude, it's crazy how I had to take such a wild journey to get to a place where, like, there are no gaps in my knowledge here. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know the problem completely. I know what I'm doing. I know the oligarchy. I know the political problem. I understand the lay of the land. The battlefield awareness is 100%. The theater is clear to me.
Yep.
My battle assets are clear to me.
Yep.
I just have to get people motivated and put them in the right place. So when you go back to a very long-winded answer to your question, how do I do this? I know where the pieces need to be, and I know what motion they need to be taking. My only challenge is generating that reality. And for example, the fact that I suck at fundraising. I don't suck at fundraising because I don't know how to ask strangers for money. I suck at fundraising because I have a very difficult time even asking my friends for money.
Yeah. For real.
I have something about that and about myself come into direct conflict. And by the way, I have a lot of friends that could help me. I just don't know how to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Nor would I. I consider it outside the parameters of friendship for some reason.
Yep.
Right.
But I wish I could, because the problem I have is not a lack of a strategy or that it's work. Look, people always ask me, where are the results? When is something going to happen? And what I tell them is, we just had a unanimous election. Democrats won everything they could have won, and they have a party approval of 22%.
Yep.
So that wasn't them. That was us.
No.
The Epstein files, almost unanimous, one vote, short. That was us. A minute ago, they were ungettable.
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats were trying. They couldn't get them.
Yep.
We've been changing the conversation, and it's working. If I had $10 million to get this thing done right, it'd be a matter of months, because when we built the strategy, it's all about creating probabilistic changes. So, for example, he is unhealthy generally.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a very clear strategy for stressing him the fuck out. I literally have a council of psychiatrists who help me stress him the fuck out. I also have a military council that helps me understand where the Pentagon is at. I've built an infrastructure for dealing with this problem, not to represent it the way that charities do.
Mm-hmm.
Because charities don't exist to solve problems. They exist to fundraise off of problems.
Yeah.
They represent the problem.
I
Think
get
about
that.
it. The March of Dimes was originally about polio or something. Then polio was solved. The March of Dimes did not stop
They
existing.
kept on marching.
They said, we need a new disease, motherfuckers. Right? The difference between me and the March of Dimes is that as soon as Donald Trump is dead and removed and we land this plane,
Yeah.
I got to get the fuck out. I don't need another thing to march about ever again.
Yeah.
Partly because I'm so fucking broke that I got to go fix that problem immediately thereafter. But my point is that I'm not here to represent the problem. And so I've built a strategy, 3 phases. Phase 1 was national protest, get people out the door and activated, create the kind of momentum that generated the election result. Now we're politically aligned. The entire country is moving in the same direction. 43% of Americans identify as members of this movement. That is a greater share of Americans than the ones that identify as Democrats, Republicans, or MAGA. So we have the highest identification rate of any political organization in the country, the movement as a whole, right? That's part 1. Phase 2, direct action. We started that on September 2nd. The idea is to put pressure directly in people's faces, make sure they feel us. What is that leading to? Along with the political reality, now you're putting pressure in people's faces. Their kids are asking them, Dad, Mom, why are a bunch of people outside the house calling you a Nazi? That changes the conversation, and it's leading to a bunch of retirements on the Republican side, because those two realities are compounding. Marjorie Taylor Greene being a perfect example of that. But we're seeing it, and we're going to keep seeing it, because even though Afton lost in Tennessee, that's a 12-point swing. So if you won by less than 12 points, you have problems, right? Never mind that this is pre-Epstein files, which was also a conversation that we engendered. During the campaign, they talked about pedophilia. I happen to know that about 30 to 40% of Americans know what that word means. So when we brought it back, we started talking about child rape. And I think you've seen, I don't know if you guys remember that game where you would pong the ball into the little area and it would just destroy as many squares as it could. And then it would come back out and you try to get it back in.
Oh, yeah.
So Epstein is the little ball that keeps giving, because we're talking about child rape. And the moment people understand it that way, it's a tougher moral problem to overcome. And we saw a near unanimous vote on that. All of these things, my point, guys, is whether or not we have done them directly or indirectly, a strategy, what it does is it creates greater probabilities of certain things happening and conditions for things to happen. So we push him on his health. We push him on Epstein. We push him on the politics, right? We try to change that. One by one, as these dominoes fall, the probabilities for our outcomes go up, and the probabilities for his outcomes go down. And we just keep making decisions in keeping faith with the strategy, and the outcome manifests. And what's funny is when you do my job right, it feels like it happened organically.
Yeah.
You don't win an election you win an election. Meaning, if you do if you do this electorally, your candidate was always going to win at the end. It never felt in doubt. But the reality is, it's very clear thinking. And the best part about it is, I don't have to recruit the entire squad to execute it. Because I'll give you an example. If you went to Google and you connected with every manager of every department in Google in a single email, and you said the new strategy at Google is data. That's it. 3 words. Google is data.
Yep.
Now go execute that strategy. Everybody who makes a physical device would replace that with building the data backbone, right? Rather than building the self-driving car, Google would build the data backbone for the self-driving car, or whatever changes it would make. Now, in a decentralized way, if every manager responsibly implements the same strategy, the entire organization changes and looks like that strategy. But there doesn't need to be even centralized management driving that. It's about getting the molecules to reorder themselves because of new DNA. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All you have to do is give the right instruction, and the entire organism reshapes. So the beauty of being me is that I don't have to have everybody working directly for me. All I have to do is create incentive structures for them to join our strategy. So, for example, in the case of Indivisible, which is an organization that I don't even talk to for many reasons, but most recently, first they were doing national protests, and they kind of carried on in that one too long. And then they were like, what are we going to do next? And then they announced the No Kings Alliance, which is an effort to do direct action. And then they said that they were going to have an election season primary program, which is phase 3 of our strategy. And basically, now they have the same strategy. Now, did I motivate them to do that? Probably, because people had written about our strategy and they probably read it and thought, good idea, right? But I'm not, but even if they hadn't, the fact that my vision was so clear that they have come to it is affirming that my vision was the right one.
The move. Yeah.
And that's what's happening organically. And to be honest, not only do I not need ownership, I don't give a fuck whether I get credit for anything I do. 90% of the work I do today, for example, involves like opposition research, where we literally put most of the shit you read that's horrible about Trump officials is put there by somebody. In many cases, me. Nobody will ever find out it was me.
Sure.
Because I'm used to operating fully behind the scenes. I'm a right-hand guy. I make other people look good. I started as a speechwriter, as a consultant. Everything I do is tuned to getting other people to earn credit. I have been directly involved with 2 New York Times #1 bestsellers. I've never written a book.
Damn.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so my point is, even that part of my personality and of my history, the fact that I don't need credit, that I don't care, because I just don't give a fuck. I really don't. I'm also smart enough to know that if we win the fight, credit is going to be a radical resource that everybody's claiming. And frankly, like the satisfaction of knowing you did a job is way better than anybody telling you you did a good job. Once you know what you did, you know what you did. And honestly, that's plenty for me. But my point is, guys, all I'm trying to do is I have a very clear vision of how we beat Donald Trump. What I lack is resources. And part of the reason I lack resources is because this conversation that we're having, this is the first time I've had it.
Okay.
Because nobody's ever bothered to ask me, hey, Carlos, where are you coming from on this? Now, think about it. If your guys are the first ones to be engaging in this way, how am I going to earn the trust of the broader community so that people say, the racist woman at Cinnabon has outraised American opposition. In a day, she raised more money than we have raised since we started. And what's funny is when I first started, I thought, this sucks because I have no money. Now I'm like, check out what we've done with like 80 grand. And now it's a weird thing because I'm not sure I want money anymore. Now I think it just makes it fucking harder.
Hey, here's a lesson. Here's a
difficult.
lesson right now. Shut up. Let the money come in. You be quiet. I'm your
No,
business
I
manager. You
all
shut the
all
hell
kidding
up.
aside, all kidding aside, we really do need money. I want to do a billboard campaign, and it's expensive. You have to build an app, and it's expensive. But my point to you guys is, no, it is interesting because strategically, from like a challenge perspective,
Mhm.
the fact that we've done this with a week of what Protect Democracy spends,
Yeah.
and
For
that if
real.
you compare our results, there you can't compare our results.
Isn't this
Mhm.
what Latinos do though? Like, just like from the inner streets, no matter what streets you are in, you find a way to
You
make
just
shit
make
happen.
you find a way to make shit happen.
Yeah.
That's it. But that's a cultural thing that you just referenced. That is very true. But if I went to a white American and I said exactly what you
Right,
just
right.
said, they would not know what you're referencing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And what I tell people is, what's the main difference between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico? In Puerto Rico, when you had a natural disaster, the U.S. money would come in to help repair it.
Mm-hmm.
When you had a hurricane hit the Dominican Republic, we were on our fucking own.
It's Dominican Republic. Yes. It's Dominican Republic and the Dominicans in the streets of Chicago. I was shaking cans trying to collect money for
Yeah.
where
No,
when it
exactly.
happened to
But
Puerto Rico, when
we
it
all
happened
have
to
to,
Santo
right.
Domingo, I was out there hustling.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
Because we have to look out and we have to make things
For our
happen.
family,
And
bro.
ultimately, right. And ultimately, all those
Mhm.
things are like hard to disassemble.
Yeah.
But that's what drives. And that's why
Yeah.
I can do this with money or without money. Because,
Sure.
dude, it doesn't. I mean, I would much prefer to wake up every day and not be need based, because that's where I am now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
50% of my thinking or more has to go to like, how am I going to pay my bills, which I'm not doing
Sure.
very well.
Yeah.
But if I could wake up tomorrow with a budget of $10 million to do what I think we need to do, I
Mhm.
think Donald Trump wouldn't last 2 months. No, for real. And I'm
Yeah.
not like tooting my own horn. I just know what I could do.
Yeah.
And it's Stephen
We've
Miller
seen
has
it played
100
out.
million, and I'm not asking for 100 million like Stephen Miller. I'm saying if I had 10 million, fuck you, Donald Trump's he's
All,
gonna die of the stress.
all these guys have
Kidding me?
unlimited money. They make money. They literally print money, and guys that are scraping and
And they're
scratching
trash.
and got
Right.
and got bubble gum and tape, and we're making shit happen. Like, you know
Making
what
shit
I
happen, man. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
no
I
That's
had to explain to people, I'm having a conversation with Carlos, and this is not a hobby.
no,
This is
it's
a
not a
job.
hobby.
This is why I am trying to build a company. I am
Right.
trying to I have a camera and a nice computer screen.
Right.
That's all I got.
No, and we have and no, but
That's
that's
all
but
I
what's
got.
funny is
right next to
you
me is
also
my
bring
my
you,
my
but you
air
have your
my air
perspective.
handler.
Right.
My AC unit is right here, and I gotta, I'm in a 2x2.
No. Mine is
Uh,
listen. It's a 600 square foot room, and the one is on the window behind that TV is the air conditioner, and it's a 600 square foot room. The only
Bro.
thing I'm
Yeah, and
telling
then
you, at the
Stephen
end of the
Miller's on
day,
TV. Stephen Miller's on TV talking about you
he's-
don't make anything. You know, no, bitch. You don't make anything.
We make
it's
shit
not
happen.
just that. It's not just that. We make shit happen, but more importantly, people fucking like us.
That
Mhm.
too.
And I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like get too deep into it, but the culture is strong. Meaning,
Yeah.
when I go dancing, when I go enjoy myself, when I
Tell 'em.
disconnect, I
Tell
don't
'em.
get to disconnect very often from this shit. But when I do, I belong somewhere, man. I'm
Yeah.
Dominican.
Yeah.
It's a superpower. I come from a place. I know where I matter.
Yep.
Every time I go back to the Dominican Republic, people are like, I knew your grandfather, and your great grandfather helped my great grandfather. And like there's ties that bind us here.
Yeah.
It's the greatest gift I ever got was to be born in that majestic place,
Mhm.
that mess of a fucking country that is also a prodigy country. Because
Yeah.
Dominicans, we're 10 million, but every city in the world dances our music every night. It's a cultural
Everyone.
superpower.
We
Our
so
food
dope
is
you
everywhere.
can't go to a Mexican restaurant without hearing salsa music.
No, exactly. It's our world is we're cultural superpower. 10 million people. Everybody in the world is following our lead on a lot of different things, and it's funny because like if you were to try to disassemble that, you think to yourself like being in America, and it's one of the sources of empathy. If you think about growing up white in the U.S., it's like, imagine growing up without those challenges, without the power outages, without the lack of clean water. So you always had to boil everything. You had to, I can tell you when water is ready, bro. I don't, nobody needs to tell me, because I used to have to deal with the parasites, you know, and take it. That was my life. That's part of my life, right? I know things now. And when you know these things, and you also know how to relate to other people and how to need people and how to connect with people and how that works and how it takes a village when they talk about that, how like my best friend's mom could spank me, and then I would complain to my mom, and my mom would, in front of me, call her and go, "Thank you." You know what I'm saying? Like, there was trust. There was trust.
Yeah.
And it wasn't abusive. It was love. And, you know, it was just the Dominican way.
Yeah.
And so to have been privileged enough to grow up in that and to know the things that I now know, you know, how to enjoy a meal, how to enjoy friendship, how to make friends and not lose them, how to invest in people,
how to not take things so seriously and so personally.
Right. How to let go, how to forgive.
Being teased and being called names and stuff like that. That's just That's just part of the game.
Dude, in the Dominican Republic, whatever your biggest flaw is will become your nickname.
Oh yeah.
Boom.
So
I mean, I'm not Dominican, but I get it. I get it.
No.
I get
Dude,
it.
whatever
No,
your
but these
biggest
motherfuckers take
insecurity
it to a different level.
No. There's a true story. I'm not going to name names, but this is a true story. There was a guy I knew, and he was known for having a big dick. He was the guy with the big dick when I was a kid. And one day there was a girl who was on top of him.
You telling my story?
Yeah, exactly. No, this is a true story. So the girl was on top of him, and she like fell to the side quickly without really considering things. She basically broke his dick, like straight up.
Shit, sorry, Carlos.
No, it wasn't me.
No, I was
it was Carlos Gomez. But that guy to this day has never lived that down. Like he's a broken dick for the rest of his existence. And so part of what I appreciate about the Dominican Republic is that we are not dealing in constructs. Americans deal in construct because Americans are a social security number as far as they're concerned. They are part of such a big thing that they don't. In the Dominican Republic, everybody's special. Primarily because they think they're special, but also because other people reward that by making them feel special, even by insulting them sometimes. Yeah, it's like, I care about you and I care about your broke dick story. And now your nickname is going to be a reflection of the fact that I'm never going to not remind you of this. You know?
If you don't have a nickname, nobody loves you.
Right.
Exactly. Let me tell you, if you don't have a nickname, chances are nobody likes you.
Right.
Yeah,
my nickname was Turpencito. My brother was called the Turpen, and I was the Turpencito. And to this day, a lot of people, if you say Carlos did such and such, they would go, who? And then you go Turpencito, and they go, oh yeah. My other brother was Archie. My brother looked like Archie in the comic book, and he's Archie. His name is Eduardo, and there are legitimate people who do not know his actual name. They just know Archie. You know what I'm saying?
In my family, my nickname was Cabeza de Torpedo.
There you go. Did you go bald early?
Torpedo head.
That usually means you went bald early and they don't want to ever make you forget.
No, it's because my head is huge. My head is huge.
I have that problem too. But again, whatever you're insecure about, they're going to turn into a nickname.
They're going to get you.
Once you learn to love people, and to give them the grace of love, you take them warts and all. One of the things that bothers me about our culture today, which actually bothers me on the left, is that we're canceling people. This idea of people saying something and you disagree with them and you never want to talk about them again, or you want them to lose their job or whatever. Fuck you.
Yep.
Pick your friends, make them your friends, take them warts and all. If they say something stupid, try to talk to them. But don't even make it that big a deal either, because we're all in this fucking thing together and nobody's perfect, and stop demanding that everybody's perfect, because it is a form of tyranny to require everybody to agree with everything you think, even if you're right about everything. It doesn't fucking matter.
And speaking politically, you're turning off half the country.
Oh, even even if you're right,
Yeah.
you're just saying, dude, my way or the highway. You know,
Yeah.
I was given shit 2 weeks ago because of Gaza, right? And
Mhm.
one of the things I may not have earned much in this life, but I've earned the right to have an opinion about activism, in my opinion. And somebody was asking me about Gaza, and I said, well, I've worked in Gaza. I can't tell you how much I love that region and how much care I have for the people and the victims of this heinous crime. And I need it to stop yesterday. And I need Benjamin Netanyahu to be put in prison for war crimes along with his entire cabinet. And I need Israel as a country to make a determined attempt to try to repair this, not just for their own people, but also for Jews around the world that are facing anti-Semitism because of the government's actions, in particular around Gaza. So that's where I sit on Gaza. I need it to end tomorrow, like now, this minute. I've lived it. I've been on the ground. I've helped negotiate for solutions for the people of Gaza. But I see this activism now that is pretending to be about Gaza, but doesn't actually do anything for the people of Gaza. They just turn it into a purist around, like they start throwing language around like they know what it means. They start using the term Zionist. They start accusing people, including, by the way, me, of being a Zionist. And I'm like, first, I don't think you know what that means. Secondly, I think you're using it to mean Jew, which I think is a problem because that's generating anti-Semitism here for people who have nothing to do with what's going on. But separate from all of that, like, I don't even think you've been to Gaza or know what that's all about. Like, I don't understand. I don't think you understand the complexities enough to try to solve the problem properly so that it's solved, rather than just talking out your ass and saying whatever you think and thinking that you're right because you're using language that sounds specific. What I want is better activism for the people of Gaza so that the results start now. And under Donald Trump, yelling at Democrats is not going to get you anywhere because Democrats can't even fix their own situation, let alone fix a global situation. So any anger you direct at Democrats right now from an activism point of view is anger that should be better aimed at other things, like uniting Europe against what Israel is doing, or getting China on board, which would be a massive game changer. You know what I'm saying? Like tangible shit that can be done. You could even convince the Russians more easier than you're going to convince Trump to try to affect some positive change in Gaza. And all of those things, if you think asymmetrically, may lead to better results for the people of Gaza. But what they're actually doing is pressing themselves into a place where they're not only not doing activism for Gaza, but they're alienating people politically here in the U.S., and they're undermining Democrats like Kamala Harris took a hit in Michigan and in other places because of it. So like all bad, right? No result is better. And they'll tell you, well, Democrats are just as bad as Republicans. No, they're fucking not. Even the most AIPAC corporatist Democrat is still better than the Republicans on the issue of Israel, period. I don't care what your position is. If you that is a true statement. That doesn't mean to say that we can't get rid of all the AIPAC corporatist Democrats. We have to. But right this minute, we need to do something for the people of Gaza on the ground. And people are giving shit about this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if I haven't earned the right to have an opinion on activism, then who the fuck has earned the right to any opinion, let alone the people that are accusing me or misrepresenting my opinion to try to make me seem out to be the bad guy?
Right.
Dude, I'm the greatest ally you can have. I agree with you on everything, but apparently I can't agree with you hard enough. And my point is, like, whether it's in friendship or in politics, you got to meet people where they are, and you got to be able to take incremental progress, and you got to
relate to them.
Right. And relate to everybody and figure it out and say, how do I deliver better results for the people of Gaza? Well, I'm going to have to swallow some shit because I'm going to go talk to evangelicals.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that the evangelical church may have some open areas where we may be able to negotiate for humanitarian access because Christians have been hugely supportive of the state of Israel and they have a lot of say-so. And maybe you should be meeting with every fucking pastor who has significant influence, and they're going to be MAGA, and you're going to hate them. But if it helps you deliver a better result or get some humanitarian aid in, it might be worth making a deal. There is no room for that in the current paradigm. And so my point to you guys is, it sucks sometimes to be the real deal in a world where most people are full of shit, because I'm sitting here going, I know exactly how I've always felt about the people of Gaza. I love them. I need their misery to end this minute.
Yeah.
I'm also keenly aware of the complexities of the issue because I've worked in the region. I've worked in Israel. I've worked in Lebanon. I've worked in Jordan. I've worked in Gaza and in the West Bank. I understand Iran's position. I understand the Saudis' position. I've been there, and nobody's been able to solve it, not for lack of trying. It's a fucking complicated problem.
Right.
Yeah.
You always end up at Jerusalem, and what are you going to do with Jerusalem? And nobody, other than one book by a fictional book written by a British author, no one has ever had a really good idea on Jerusalem other than one dude writing fiction. That's how bad this problem is. The guy chanced upon it in a book called First Among Equals. There's actually a pretty decent potential solution. But other than that, like, nobody, it's an intractable conflict for a reason. And like, to see influencers take it and run with it as if they know, just reminds you of how full of shit this generation is and allows themselves to be.
Yeah.
Which is a very frustrating place to sit where I'm sitting, because the stakes here are the death of America.
Yeah.
And I'm still arguing with people over whether I meant it enough when I said that I wanted the situation in Gaza to get better. And like me personally dealing with that charge after all I've done, rather than having those people come
visiting
to me
the
and go,
place,
how can we help you?
starting different coalitions here. Like,
And I'm no, dude,
You don't
I've
believe
been
me?
there.
yeah.
I've been
And
there.
again, this
I've been
falls
there.
on like, people don't believe that stuff is terrible. You don't need to see a city that has been bombed and people dead for you to acknowledge the fact that that situation sucks.
And it's happening.
Not only that it sucks, but ideally, and it's kind of my point is, look, we can enjoy Kim Kardashian's reality shows. We can even elect Donald Trump. But if you want to solve this problem, it's going to require real wisdom and solutions to problems that have existed long before Trump.
Yep.
In the context of Gaza, it's about fixing the Middle East at an age where it's never been more broken. So it's harder than it was when Clinton was trying to solve it, or when Reagan was dealing with it, or when, Nixon was dealing with it. So it's harder. But the approach we're taking to everything, including Trump, is an influencer approach. Most of the people, like, for example, and look, one day I posted something negative about Aaron Parnas. And my thought was, the kid's like 20 something. And he's the most trusted news voice in America. And I don't have a problem with Aaron Parnas as an influencer trying to develop a news career. I think that's fucking amazing.
Right.
But what is the difference between Aaron Parnas and Walter Cronkite? About 40 years of making tough decisions, which give you wisdom, experience, life experience that you distill into wisdom so that you know better.
Yep.
And Aaron Parnas cannot get that without having done it, because you can't cheat it. Yeah. And dude, it was like half the world turned on me. It's like a cult, kind of like how MAGA's a cult. The Parnas cult came after me and go, how are you talking shit about Aaron? I'm like, what are you? It is undebatable. The kid is 20 something years old, has been doing this for exactly 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are we talking about? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And honestly, if we think that Aaron Parnas is prepared to be the voice of news when the stakes are the future of the United States of America, then we are video gaming real life in a way that doesn't fucking comprehend the severity of what we're talking about. And are we so spoiled that if this country were to fall to fascism and therefore the world might end because of the destabilizing impact that would have on literally everything else. If we can't understand the consequentiality of what we're dealing with and the adulthood that we need to bring to it, and the lack of ego, because if you're not the right person, you got to be able to step out of the way and say, I am not the right person for this.
That's one of the big problems.
And I'm telling you, man, we are thinking that we can, because of this culture, that the influencer rather than the real thing.
Yep.
We are thinking that we can do real things without knowing real things.
Yeah.
And that's a real fucking problem.
Yep.
And I don't know how to fix it, man. But if we don't fix it, we're gonna have a serious issue
like
in terms of getting this fight done.
It's like thinking you know how to fly and you just jump, you jump out of a window and.
Right. Or, no, there's a better analogy, which is you've been playing Microsoft Flight Simulator your whole life, but you've never got in a plane.
Yeah.
And you just think, I know how to fly. And by the way, on paper, hypothetically, yeah, you've been in a simulator, but you don't know what a fucking wind gust feels like at the exact moment of landing and what to do physically to tune yourself to that to make sure the plane lands safely. Right. And it's that problem. By the way, that problem may not appear 99 times out of 100, but the number 100, you're fucking dead.
Yeah.
And so my thing is like, it feels a little bit crazy to me that I just don't get how people have not internalized the severity of the problem, the consequentiality if the problem is allowed to continue to grow unabated, the fact that they voted for this fucking guy in the first place, and whatever the fuck is going on with those people and their lack of seriousness about the country and about themselves and about their vote and about their responsibility as citizens. Like, are we just in a fucking video game where nothing matters? Because the reality is, I can solve Trump. I'm pretty sure I can solve Trump. I got lucky. And when I say I'm meaning I don't need to trust that anybody else can. I think I can.
Yeah.
With the right strategy and the right coalitions and the right thing, I know I can guide us out of this. But is it going to be good for anything if we continue to be a Kim Kardashian country?
Exactly.
Because we've gone from Duke Ellington through Michael Jackson to Justin Bieber. We've gone
now AI. And now AI.
From Shakespeare to 50 Shades of Grey. From fucking John F. Kennedy to Donald Trump.
To RFK.
And to make it more specific, from Abraham Lincoln to Donald Trump is the history of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And we're still claiming progress.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, I get the progress on civil
people
rights.
have been arguing the same points for hundreds of years.
Yeah, because
progress.
The oppression doesn't end because we're existing within the system. You have to uproot the system to uproot the oppression. Right. It just gets redesignated.
Exactly.
I was just watching something about.
No change.
I was just watching something. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just watching something with Jordan Peele. How he's talking about the originator of cowboy, and how they were black people.
They were black,
And then how everything just like, oh man, it's cool to be a cowboy all of a sudden.
How did he talk about how cowboy was actually like a disparaging term?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go.
And all of a sudden it was everything became cool. Like, oh man, like
no, and I would venture further, guys. Most of what we consider American culture is derived from the African American experience. And I'll tell you why. Culture is a mechanism for societal coping.
Yeah.
Culture is how we deal with the fact that we're fucked. The reason Dominicans are 10 million, but we're a cultural superpower, is because we've been fucked since 1492. And the entire time we've been locked on an island that at many times has been split between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So there's internal strife. And we've never had an out.
France is still fucking Haiti.
France is Haiti. Spain is us. And the Americans are everywhere invading us at one point. And like, we've been fucked the whole time. And at some point, Dominicans came together and said, we're not going to be fucked all the time. We're going to find joy.
Yeah.
So as a society, in order to have an exhaust valve for all this shittiness, we're going to find music and we're going to find food and we're going to find each other and we're going to build a society together.
Yep.
Now, America, if you're a white American, historically, the struggle was wrapped up in progress. So when the first settlers arrived, Western expansion, you think of all of the progress that was made. And while a lot of people didn't win, right, there were a lot of poor white people, and there always have been and there always will be. But the general cultural thrust was progress, right? So after World War II, when American white people suffered tremendously, a generation of young white men particularly went to war and saw horrible things, and they came home. Rather than build a culture together, they built the interstate system and the modern economy and all these things. After the Civil War, similarly, the railroad and all of that, right? Economic progress became the American way to cope. And I mentioned that because there was one insular group of people that suffered the whole fucking time, and that was Black people. And in their suffering, they created barbecue, rock, blues, jazz, country.
Chicago.
They literally provided
They created Chicago.
They created country. They
created country.
Yeah, very much.
Let's go.
All of those sounds are derived from African cultures, down to the you think about the musical scales, you think about the drums, you think about all of these things as descended from the African American experience. And so I laugh when Americans talk about American culture, because I think to myself, the hamburger is German. One of the few things that white people have real claim to is film as an art form. But even then, some of the greatest developments in film came from the African American experience, and some of the dances in the early days of swing dancing and all of that. All of that was being derived from that experience, including, by the way, the fact that the first real integration that happened was at dance clubs in places like New York and Chicago, where it could happen. And so, how can you be so ungrateful to a population of people that have provided your cultural backbone and your way of dealing with the shit? And the interesting thing about the Trump period to me is that now that, because we lived in a closed kind of system, we're not uprooting the system and removing the oppression. We're just reallocating it. And right now, for about the last 40, 50 years, more suffering has been allocated to white people than at any point in our history. And they lack the cultural mechanisms to deal with it, because culture is a product of an experience that is unique to you. When I'm Dominican and I grew up in Dominican culture, it's my way of channeling things. I can't just give you my culture and you use it to channel your shit, because that doesn't speak to your unique experience and to your unique suffering, right? So it's like your culture is tuned to your experience. If you have a population of people who are suffering for the first time in history in a way that they can't grow out of, meaning they can't build interstates, and they need a mechanism for coping, and the one that they think is theirs was provided by Black people and brown people. They are not getting better, because they're not actually dealing with their own issues. They're trying to deal with their own issues with Black and brown medicine. It's not the same disease. The disease is tailored to their unique struggle. And that's not to say they're not struggling, because they are. And in their own minds, they are victims. And that is also a fair judgment from a first-person perspective.
Let's sprinkle this in there. There's a lot more poor white people than there are rich white people.
1,000,000%. And the struggle is real. The problem is that you look, they had to introduce crack in the Black communities to keep Black people under control after redlining. So that was done to Black people. They were the victims of that experience.
And they were raising money for militia.
But my point is, that was created that was brought into that community.
Right.
And it was a challenge that community, an external challenge that community had to deal with.
Right. That wasn't part of their culture.
No. My point is that the opiate epidemic is a very different animal, because it is the product of a lack of a proper functioning coping system, because they don't genuinely have a culture that's native to their experience. And we don't, in America, so big that you have like some people like the Mennonites or whatever that are small communities that serve each other and that are, the Amish, etc.
Right.
But as a general country, white people have many different cultures. Appalachia is very different from California. It's very different from Oregon. So you can't just pour it over.
Yeah.
And because the people around you keep changing, because people keep moving and moving in, you don't really know the people around you. They're not invested in you in the way that they might be in the Dominican Republic, because they don't get to move. They've lived next to your family forever, and they're going to live next to your family forever. And they're in it with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so this is not to cast aspersions on white people. In fact, I feel a lot of strong empathy for the white community that is struggling and turning to Trump or turning to opiates, because I know what the problem is. And the problem is that they don't have a healthy mechanism for socializing their pain, which is very real. And we can't build one on the spot. It requires them turning inward and turning towards each other and building those bridges. And you can't do it for them. And those of us who know what it feels like to have a cultural backbone can clearly diagnose the problem, but we can't solve it, because I can't lend you merengue because you're going to think it's too loud and obnoxious. You know what I mean? And so, like,
hey, these fuckers have been going to Puerto Rico complaining that the coqui makes too much noise.
right? No,
Then don't fucking go.
Too much noise. Well, but here's the thing: you talk about noise. Noise is the exact right word. Think about this. When Americans want a condition of peace, what are the words that they use? They say, "I want peace and quiet." I don't know a single Dominican that would identify peace with quiet.
Nope.
Those two things are
Not
not.
one. Not
It's
one.
a really fucking problematic one,
Not
because
one.
we are not quiet. We exist in a constant volume of 10, and it goes to 11, bro. In honor of Rob Reiner, it goes to 11, bro. Because bachata can only be played at a volume where they can hear you 3 towns over.
If they
motherfucker.
shake the bones in your body like there's a tank
Right.
being shot at you.
And so I live in
Exactly.
Colorado, which is an overwhelmingly white city, and people pursue peace and quiet. And I've seen my neighbors complain, literally have arguments over the roots of a tree growing from one yard into the next yard. Like, that's a real.
Yeah.
And my point is that my culture is not going to address the challenges faced by those people. It's just not. And I can't build them one.
Yeah.
But until we solve for that problem, the Kardashians, Justin Bieber, all of this degradation that we're seeing, I see it as a direct result of that unresolved frustration being used to undermine everything and destroy it all rather than surrender. They would rather blow it up than fix it, because fixing it is daunting.
That's
You know
why-
how many
because-
times I've said they would rather break it than play fair?
Right.
and
They
they don't
would-
want it.
No, but that's not, but I just want to be very clear. From their perspective, it seems like the easier option.
Yeah.
Playing unfair is the easiest way out.
Yeah.
So let's not be so limited to say, we don't understand why. We get it.
And that's why they don't want to detach from this cult.
They not just the cult of Trump,
Because they're winning.
the cult. Well, no, to be fair, they're not winning, and that's what's happening. And they're not winning at a rate that's actually kind of quick. But the problem is that if they would rather fight a war than uproot the system or redraft the system, then they can cause a war. So the question of how strong white supremacy is going to hang on determines the outcome.
And
to
all you need
me,
to do is play merengue. That's all you have to
if
do.
I had a way to mind meld with every American and send them one message,
Yeah.
I would just want them to understand what it feels like to be part of something with other people.
Yeah.
What
Different
it feels
people,
like to be
different.
Dominican. No, not even. What it feels like in my case to be Dominican. Because the cultural sustenance that I get from belonging in a country that I no longer live in still carries me to this day and allows me to be empathetic towards people that are not like me. because I have a healthy mechanism for dealing with my frustrations and for socializing my frustrations. I have a lot of friends I can call. I have a lot of music I can listen to. I have a lot of words I can write or read. There's a famous Dominican poem called Hay un país en el mundo. There is a country on earth. It was written by the poet laureate of the Dominican Republic. And I swear to you guys, every once in a while, I just pull it out and I read it out loud because it reminds me of who I am. And if everybody had that, just that one thing, a mechanism for socializing and channeling their pain constructively, we would not be where we are today.
Yep.
Because part of our problem is the lack of surrender of what they know as culture is dominance.
Yep.
But dominance is not culture. And culture isn't dominant. Culture is inherently non-dominant. The idea is I'm down and others will pick me up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or somebody else is down and I'm going to pick them up.
Yep.
And whether we do it directly or indirectly, I buy the CDs that feed the musician that makes the music that makes another person feel better. And we're all in it together. And if I don't buy the CD and a bunch of other Dominicans don't buy the CD, by the way, we're only 10 million. The CD sales are limited. So we all have to really be in it to get a musician.
You better make a banger.
Right. You got to support. You know what I'm saying? You got to support. Because when I was a kid on Tuesdays, they would issue the new albums and you had to support your people.
Yeah.
And you have to buy them without listening to them. You have to have faith.
Yo, that shit hit hard.
No. Yeah. And then you listen to it on the radio. I already have this one. And it was part of like being together and connected.
Yeah.
And so the problem we have is that we have to build a culture particularly for poor white Americans. We have to build a mechanism for them channeling their anger, frustration, and hurt constructively together in a healthy fashion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this problem will continue to haunt us and will eventually defeat us because we cannot control the outcome if a bunch of disillusioned white people decide they'd rather burn it all down than share.
There's so many layers, man. We have to, like, everybody's angry about something, right? Like everybody's black and brown people are mad at white people, you know, for all everything that's gone on in the past. But we of course have to be the ones that say, okay, we know you fucked up. I'm gonna help you for a minute.
Right.
I'm gonna help heal you.
Right.
You know, and then we do what we do. We navigate. We help them navigate, and then we bring them along, and then we all flow together. And this is how that culture develops, where it's actually a culture here.
Right. And my point to you is though, and this is the question, is that what we're doing?
Right.
And so I look at us too, meaning us in the movement, for example. There's a lot of people that insult MAGA all day, every day. That's all they do. And I'm one of those people sometimes. I fall prey to it, particularly when it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. But if you notice, when you know, Carlos, you watch some of my speeches, I don't call people names. That's not my MO.
Right.
Because I don't want to be practicing the wrong thing. And now sometimes I get very angry and I call somebody a name, and sometimes it works and I break Marjorie Taylor or whatever. According, everybody thinks it was me because she started behaving more reasonably the day after my diatribe to Don Lemon.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No, and to be fair, I enjoyed every minute of that. But my point to you guys is, we're also culpable because we are losing track that the solution here has to be rooted in us understanding that whether we like it or not, they control enough to destroy us all. And I don't know if you guys have watched that movie, TV show Silo, but I was thinking of Silo is on Apple TV. It's a fantastic show. But there's an analogy from the show, which is at the bottom of the silo, there are the mechanical people that fix all the machines and the generator, and they keep the power and the water running. So they're keeping the silo alive. And there's this allegory in the show about everybody thinking that they are the reason that the silo works, right? Managers think that it's them because they're managing it, and everybody thinks that their part is the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my message to you guys and to this world is it doesn't really matter. Because whether we're right or not will not matter if they destroy our silo.
Right.
There is no additional satisfaction from being right. In fact, it's worse. Because if you're right and you get fucked by fascism, you're truly the worst person positioned for it. Because you're sitting there going, I was right the whole time and I still got fucked. You know? In some ways, in some ways, being one of the bad guys is in some ways a better way to fall, because then you're like, we're winning. Oh shit, we're all dead. You know,
We're fucked.
you know what I'm saying? So I promise you, no amount of arrogance or self-confidence or self-blockage of saying we're not going to listen to them, we're not going to deal with them, we're just going to vote them out, and that's oppression.
Yeah.
We're going to restrain them or restrict them. That's oppression. That's what we're fighting against.
Yeah.
And the problem with going to tie this all together, the problem with the perspective that we are right and they're wrong is that it makes us immature in thinking that we can just call them names, insult them, and then push them to a corner.
Yeah.
Which actually perpetuates the problem and makes us the bad guys in real life.
Yep.
Because we're then the ones oppressing them, and then it just keeps.
And we haven't fixed shit either.
And we haven't fixed a fucking thing. So but the adult version of this, which is a much harder problem, it's a much more sophisticated problem because it's multidimensional and it exists in a continuum where time is also a factor. So it's not just what problems do you fix, is in what order do you fix them?
Yeah.
To make so that you can create a solution that is not imposed but is adopted, and that addresses with problems as they emerge and creates opportunities as those problems are solved to solve other problems and to do it with intention, so that you're fixing what needs to be fixed so that other things become possible, but you're doing it in a sequence that unlocks everything rather than siloing some problems and creating lack of access issues, right?
Yeah.
I watched this speech of yours, and you said something that you said, stop thinking of things in terms of change, but in terms of innovation.
Right. So think of innovation as a continuum where it's not just what happens, guys. It's in what order it happens. Is what does A leading to B create for C?
Yep.
What becomes possible? And we're a democratic society, which means we don't think as a hive mind. We don't think in a unified way. So sometimes we chance upon the right sequence, but for the most part, we're not thinking intentionally about how to solve problems. The challenge for this movement, as I see it, is that I would rather solve these problems forever.
Yeah.
That's the innovation.
That's the innovation. It has
100%.
to, because if we don't solve it forever, then we're just going to have another Trump at some point.
Right.
Even before the next Trump, we will fall to the Kardashians, because what I mean by that is we are not taking ourselves seriously enough to continue to exist. And part of what you're about to see, which we haven't experienced yet, is the United States was number one in public education up until 1976, and it has fallen. It is no longer in the top 30. We haven't yet fully felt right, but that generation is still working. The ones that knew shit are still working.
Right.
The replaceability problem for that generation is a massive fucking problem, especially in an age of technology where China is graduating 12 engineers for every one of ours.
That's what I've been saying.
Right. But my point is, think about the layering of all of our problems. And then think about even if you had absolute power, you would still have to think very carefully about, what do I solve first and second and third, so that fourth becomes possible, fifth becomes possible, sixth, and so that I'm covering for everything and thinking for everything and accounting for everything, or at least as much as I can, so that the result is truly an uprooted system that is better.
Right.
And then to do that in the midst of Trump, with Trump as president and controlling the levers of power, to do it in an international situation where Russia is ascendant, where China is ascendant, where Israel's lost its goddamn mind. Like, all of these challenges are happening. This is a fucking impossible task.
Yeah.
And all I can say is I feel very lucky to be the guy, or one of the guys, thinking about, and girls, I should say, it's not a sexist thing, but I am a man. But I feel very lucky to be in the position to try to help direct us.
Yeah.
The reason is not just because I'm a strategist by trade. It's because I think the thing that I see growing up in my circumstance is how serious this is.
Mhm.
Because my original appreciation for America was a Dominican's appreciation for America.
Right.
The fact that we have power all of the time, it still blows my fucking
Isn't it
mind.
crazy? I have
The
a
fact
cousin.
that you can drink the water is astonishing.
It's
What are you
crazy.
talking about?
I have a cousin that I got to meet, or not meet, but I got to hang out with over Thanksgiving, where he grew up in Cuba, and when he was lucky, he got to go to the rich lady's house to take a shower,
Right.
and they knew that she was the rich lady because she had hot water, and the way she had hot water was a pipe coming out of the wall and an electric wire tapping that pipe, heating it up so it would heat up the water.
There you go. No, listen, I grew up under very privileged circumstances, and we still had to we had to heat up a bucket of water in
Mhm.
order for a hot shower to exist. There was no
Yeah.
native hot water coming from the pipes. That was
Right.
never my experience in the Dominican Republic. I don't think up until recently I hadn't taken a hot shower in the Dominican Republic. To this day, when I go to my mom's house, a hot shower can only last about 3 minutes because that's the amount of hot water that's available.
Yeah.
But my point is not that, and it's not about my struggle. It's just about the appreciation
Right.
for America from the outsider's perspective.
Right.
Because the seriousness of this, not just the nuclear dangers and but the geopolitical problem, like what we
Mhm.
represent as an anchor for the rest of the world. We
Mm.
are not allowed to lose our minds in the way the rest of the world is allowed to lose
Exactly.
their
Right.
minds.
Right.
Because the consequentiality of that is so much more serious. The example we set, and either we need to remain mature or buy the world enough time for them to mature up to be able to cover for us. But either way, we have a problem. If
Right.
America is not that anchor, then we have a problem, because
Right.
the Russians and the Chinese don't share our moral systems vis-a-vis
Right.
government.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's not to say that their systems couldn't work, but they would look radically different, and they would not be tenable to us as a people. And
Mhm.
so we would live in that conflict of being the good guys, but who look like the bad guys because the bad guys control everything. It would be basically kind of like living under the Empire in Star Wars. So the challenge of what I'm trying to do incorporates all of this.
Mhm.
And part of the problem is that I can't explain it properly. Like, what I'm trying to do does not register with the current culture because they don't know
Yeah.
what they don't know.
Right.
If you're an influencer and you just want to know politics and talk about politics, you can have 2 million followers and you are a person I fucking have to deal with.
Yeah.
In real life, though, if you don't understand that I'm trying to play a multi-dimensional fucking game to try to get to an outcome, trying to deliver a strategy that marries a lot of people into it in the context of a culture where, like, issues like Gaza and others can be used as poison pills rather than affirmative efforts to actually fix problems. It's the most compounded fucking challenge ever. As a strategist, it's the most interesting fucking work I'll ever do. But I can't lose, because if I lose, then that means we lose. And if we lose, then that means that, fuck, man, that's the
Yeah.
terrible thought. And
That's-
so, and the last thing I'll say is how fucking lonely it is, because
Mm.
it isolates, leadership is isolates you anyway. No matter what decision you make, you're pissing people off.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But in this case, they can't physically see the forest for the trees for the most part. So even people who agree with us, they still make it hard for us to convince them because they feel that making it hard for us is what makes them important.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And then to me, I'm like, dude, I have this very clear idea of what I'm trying to do. I need these 5 organizations aligned on this one issue. I know they all agree, but one of them is going to throw a fucking fit just because they want to be able to say that they didn't let me have it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would be fine if we were at Goldman Sachs and it was competing against Merrill Lynch or whatever. But it's not fine when the fucking stakes are the future of the United States of America.
Yeah.
But fuck, how many fucking people are doing this for ego and self-centeredness? And there was, now I'm not going to name names, but there was one person that removed the regime who literally complained ad nauseum to the point where I heard about it because nobody had mentioned their name from the stage.
Oh.
And I'm sitting here going, dude, fuck, man. I have enough problems upon enough problems upon enough. I'd have to go through a sequence of about 30 iterations of delayering for me to ever give a shit about who gets named from the stage at a fucking rally.
Hey, I didn't get a shout out, man. Come on, man. I made a song for you guys.
Yeah, I know. You did. It was a really good song, too. And I'm comfortable.
The video
that
saved
you're
it.
comfortable. Yeah, I'm comfortable that you're comfortable knowing that we all really enjoyed your song. And if nobody ever told you about it, it wasn't because they didn't enjoy it. It was because we were very busy doing many other things, right?
Okay.
But again, I just think, dude, it feels sometimes insane. It feels insane. I need as much help as I can get. And I need it from every corner of society. And I need a massive budget. And I need allies. And I need people to say yes all the time. And I need, even with all of that alignment, I'm still going to need other leaders to come up and guys like you that are leading, showing up, running efforts that I can trust. Other leaders that, because I'm not the only leader in this movement, and nor should I be. They're going to fucking arrest me or kill me at some point. They're working on now a list of domestic lists of enemies, blah, blah, blah. We need replaceability. We need other people, but we need people who can see it. And the problem is that because we're in a culture of you can fake it till you make it, just about everything.
Yep.
It creates a really dangerous condition for us when the stakes are this high and the problems are this complex and the solutions require real careful alignment and execution, flawless execution.
Yeah.
And honestly, thankfully, Donald Trump is a fucking moron. And we could not have picked a weaker opponent. And so that's the only fucking reason we're still around. If it had been Obama,
Yeah, it would have been a wrap. I've said that a bunch too. I wanted to go back to your 3-step approach.
Right.
1 was national protest.
Yep.
2 was direct action. What was
And
3?
3 is a campaign season program to replace as many Democrats as possible, especially the ineffective ones, so that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are never leaders again. And so that we just have better Democrats. I mean, these people, the Democratic Party is my biggest frustration in this entire campaign.
Yeah.
I honestly would not, well, first, when I started this, because I called for the first and the second National Days of Protest, and the second one became the first No Kings protest. So people give me some credit for launching the movement, which is right, because I was there. But that's not really my important contribution. My important contribution is the strategic perspective. It's looking at this as a thing. And I assumed that the Democrats would not be, they would be neutral, meaning they would not help me, but they would not hurt me.
Yeah.
I was wrong. That assumption turned out to be horribly wrong. Democrats are a bigger problem in my day-to-day than Republicans are. But it's not close. The Republicans are entirely predictable. I understand what they want. I understand who they are. I know how to manage for that.
Yeah.
Democrats are confusing because to some degree they're not doing the things that would serve their best interests. And so I genuinely say that if there was a trial with a truly impartial jury and one side was arguing that the Democrats are complicit and the other side was arguing that they're incompetent, the complicity argument would win. Because strategically speaking, they are not doing the things that they should be doing based on the inputs that Trump is providing.
Right. Right.
And I don't, as a strategist, I can only depend on information when it matches some semblance of sense about what are you trying to achieve and what are you doing to get there, kind of. You don't have to be perfect or even good at it, but at least I have to think, oh, this is where they're headed and they're misguided, so they're doing it the wrong way, but I see what they're doing. I don't know what the Democrats are doing.
Yeah.
And that is a fucking problem. And I met with Hakeem Jeffries' staff, and I still don't know what the Democrats are doing because they don't know what the Democrats are doing. And that was the scariest fucking meeting of my life. Because I swear to you guys, I walked out of that meeting thinking I was supposed to meet with an adult who was going to lay out for me step by step what the Democrats are doing.
But you got to think, out of all those representatives that are out there in Washington, only Al Green is out there on the front line with you guys marching. Like,
no, it's not. I mean, Shri Tanandar just did us a solid with the Hegseth impeachment. We have a few, but yeah, no.
It's not out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know.
No. Yeah, it's not. But if that were my problem, that I can cover for that. If it's just getting people to come out and campaign, or people faces or influencers or actors or whatever, that's easily solved. You can replace a congressman with somebody more interesting. Because frankly, like 90% of members of Congress by the way, Congress is just a bunch of people in a really large building desperate for attention. It's like it's a miserable institution. But
people call them the ugly actors that didn't make it in Hollywood.
Yeah, literally. Washington being like Hollywood for ugly people, 100% true. And there's like two groups. One got laid in high school. Those are the Democrats. The other ones didn't, and they're Republicans, and they're like trying to be cool. And it's weird because none of them are cool. But if that were my problem, that would be a relatively simple problem to solve. The problem is that even at the leadership level, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have an actual strategy. So I don't care if it's complicity or incompetence. The net result is
you're not doing shit.
Democrats are not doing any of the things that I need them to be doing so that I don't have to think about them.
Right.
And remember, if they were just neutral, that would already be 90% better than where we are right now.
Yeah.
If they weren't either helping or hurting, at least they would create a constant. And in a strategist world, what we're trying to do is to turn as many variables into constants as possible so that we narrow the field of the choices that we have to make.
Yeah.
So in a conditionality sense, I would just want to put the Democrats in the neutral column, but I can't because every day they wake up and fail to do some of the most basic shit. And then when they do shit, they do it very poorly to the extent that you think maybe they're trying to kick their own asses because they can't possibly be this.
That's been my feeling with watching not even just the current crop of lawmakers, just in general. It feels like the Republicans are pushing towards an autocracy, autocracy, or a technocracy, or whatever it is that they're pushing towards. And then the Democrats seem like they know that that's where they want to go too, but they're playing hard to get. And they're trying to like put up this smoke screen so we don't notice.
No, so that it's the same result, but they're in control, maybe. Or just that they know that that's where we're going to end up anyway. And to soften the blow, or to put a little sugar in the medicine. Right. They plan hard to get, and they're telling us, oh look. No. Hakeem Jeffries, you're from New York. You should be well versed in shit talking. Yeah. No, and to be honest, that's a really good way to describe it. But whatever the case, what it nets out to be is that they are constantly my challenge. Like, I don't want to have to make the Democratic Party better. I just don't even want to fucking think about the Democratic Party. Please, can somebody remove them from my board as a thing I have to worry about? And then when I am with them, how can they be so fucking stubborn and not see what I'm saying? Because this shit is not, we're not talking strategy 401 or graduate school strategy. We're talking 101 shit.
Yeah.
Like the dude just came out and attacked Rob Reiner. Have you seen a single Democrat on TV today?
And
Yeah.
all the shit that Trump said about, oh man,
And-
No,
And
I mean,
all the
you're
hard
talking
work
about
that
an
Rob put
unequipped,
into this messaging.
right?
He wasn't quiet. He was
Not
out
only
there
that,
being a vocal supporter. He was doing his job.
and when
he went,
when Charlie Kirk died, Rob Reiner said flat out, "There's no room for this in
right.
anything."
But not only that,
Exactly.
guys, think about it this way. Forget about Rob Reiner as a partisan figure for a minute. Rob Reiner was a legend of cinema, the son of another legend of cinema,
Yep.
a guy who gave us some of the best films we've ever had.
Yep.
I challenge any filmmaker to make a better romantic comedy than When Harry Met Sally.
Mhm.
I challenge anybody to make a better movie than A Few Good Men, period.
Yep.
The Princess fucking Bride is a masterpiece.
Yes.
Hey, in
That guy-
Archie Bunker's show, he was
Right.
groundbreaking. He
Right,
was bringing topics to the TV,
right,
invading
guy-
people's living rooms
right.
with this. What was it that Archie used to call him? Meathead and like
The meathead, yeah,
Tommy and all the things. And
right. And my point is, like, that's an American.
Yeah.
Through and through. Worked hard, developed his talent, was as good as Mel Brooks in comedy, because a lot of people think The Princess Bride must be a Mel Brooks film.
Yeah.
And he was as good as Steven Spielberg in drama.
Yeah.
That is a unique human being. There's
Yeah.
no other way to say it. And my question to the world, to our country at this moment is, if the president of the United States can badmouth Rob Reiner, what is sacred anymore? Where are we? What do we care about? What is it that we're celebrating?
Right.
And it goes back to, forget about Trump for a minute, just a permission structure to be able to say bad shit about good people. Doesn't that connect with us celebrating the Kardashians of the world and the housewives of the world, rather than saying, you know what, let's have some fucking dignity and self-respect as a people and celebrate good people. And if we're going to be a country that contains as much genius and as much creativity and creative vision as we have, let's elevate that. But when Kim Kardashian dies, she's going to get more press than when Stephen Colbert dies. And I'm just going to stick to entertainment, not to bring in other, because those, right? What are we fucking doing?
Right.
And I ask that only because, again, what the Democrats are doing doesn't make sense, but what the American people are doing doesn't make sense either. Which is like, we're acting like this is just a moment. The presumption that everything is going to be okay is inherently American to a degree that it's almost insane.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be fine. It'll get worked out.
And on the next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've
Fucking
changed America to an episode of Cops. Every day is an episode of Cops.
We're going to get to a better place eventually, because we always have. We don't have to do much as citizens because it's always been given to us. We are so spoiled that we may have spoiled ourselves into our own destruction.
Yeah.
And all it takes to see that is being from not here.
Yep.
And as soon as I'm Dominican, I'm like, what the fuck are you people doing? Like, every time I hear Americans go, our country is broken, I'm like, motherfucker, you have a mail system where the mail arrives on time.
Yeah.
When the government sends you a check, the government has a printing machine that prints checks somehow. Secondly, they put it in the mail system that somehow works.
Hey,
Then
we're
the
so
check
dope.
arrives
We're so
and the
dope. We
check
have a machine
clears.
that signs the checks for the president.
for you.
Auto
Literally, that's, we have an auto pen. Hey, your check arrives. It arrives on time. It always clears. The power's always on. You can drink water from any faucet.
When you
What
drive, the lights
fuck is your
work.
problem? Yeah, the roads are not bumpy and there's no potholes that fit your car in them. And I'm astounded every day And it's like we're actors who don't want to do the play, so we can keep complaining about the stage, but we have the nicest opera house ever built in the history of mankind,
Ever.
and we just have to do the busy work of putting on the play, but we
Yeah.
have to actually do it.
Yeah.
And so we're just so fucking lazy now and so spoiled that my concern, guys, is that we win this battle, but we lose the war, because either we alienate MAGA and push them to beyond the brink where they decide to burn it all down just to get the satisfaction of watching us suffer,
Yeah.
or it all gets burned down because we solve for Trump, but we don't fix the underlying lack of cultural issues.
Yes.
So we end up in a grinder of
Yes.
just reapportioning suffering and sending it, no, you take it, no, you take it, and just having that internal fight, which
Yep.
may or may not lead to a war, but either way leads to a collapse.
Yep.
And all because we were arguing over like the positioning of the plugs on the greatest stage ever built. Like we were 5 big decisions away from solving every problem we had. And instead we said, you know what? No, let's elect the dude that paints his face literally orange. That's
That
the guy.
hides his true face from reality.
With orange
Yeah, with
paint
orange.
on his face.
Don't forget that little
Oh, the neck pussy.
the
Yeah.
neck-
little neck jam.
You just want Cliff Cash to come on your show. You start talking about the next.
We gotta
neck
have him
pussy.
back on.
Yeah, we have him back on.
Yeah,
He's been
Cliff
on.
is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been my push has been we need to change the culture by investing in education,
Right.
because education, you get them young and you get them teaching. Like it's to me, I've seen younger kids, and I'm talking the 10s, 12s, 14s right in there. They are knowledgeable and they understand way more than even when I was that age, because they have all this information available.
Yeah, but I would say, but we keep thinking that, and then Gen Z comes out and votes for Trump. So part of the challenge with education is that you also have to have end goals that make sense. So adulthood has to be worth it.
Mhm.
I think part of it is that if you come out of college and adulthood is not worth it, then you don't have a mechanism for fixing that. Like one thing we've always wanted to do is to do like a public service, so that if you do 4 years in the military or 4 years in the Peace Corps, college is free, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To create structures where morality and character are also developed in concert, particularly in an age where we have a mass addiction to phones, which I haven't even touched on. But that undergirds the entire problem globally, is the fact we are all currently in a mass addiction event, the likes of which we have never dealt with as a humanity.
True.
And we genuinely don't know how to, we haven't even looked at it as a problem yet,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but that's a whole
Next
own
episode.
thing, right? But to think about young people, it's not just education. Part of it, and my solution would be for us Latinos and Black Americans and Native Americans and Asian Americans to start integrating our cultures in as much as we can, to start teaching
Mhm.
about cultural resilience from our experience, and bringing
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
bringing American white people into our experience.
Yep.
To open our doors.
Yep.
Because we already know these lessons. So all we have to do is pass them on.
Yeah.
And hopefully that would help us create a unified American culture
Right.
that draws from all of them. But if nothing else, at least gives particularly poor white Americans an avenue and a mechanism for socializing and coping with their shared pain. Because
Yeah.
that pain is real to them. We will never be able to deny it. And frankly, the fact that we're even trying is kind of insulting, right? Just because they were rich and they are now poor doesn't mean that they don't feel the suffering the same way as if they had never had anything or had been oppressed. And to be fair, yes, do we need restorative justice for people who have been oppressed? Yes, we do. But we also can't invalidate the pain of real people feeling it every day. They're benefactors of generations of oppression, but
Mhm.
they themselves individually don't feel responsible for it. Even though there is blame to be had, we have to find a way to move them from where they are to where we need them to be. And we need to do that constructively. And we have the information. As Black people or brown people or Latinos or Asian people, we tend to have better cultural mechanisms. And I think inviting people in and saying, hey, buddy, I know you want to punch your own face. I saw a clip of them. MAGA people apparently are just starting to punch their own faces.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, dude, you can just have some rum and dance some salsa. It'll make you feel way better.
For real.
Seriously.
I
Like,
that.
Oh my
dude,
god.
one dude was punching himself in the face and his tooth just casually just flew out of his mouth. And I was like,
He's like,
My question is,
get me out of here.
wouldn't it be like someone who thinks that punching yourself in the face is cool or is going to prove a point or whatever? I
Right.
think that mentality has a tendency, whether or not, you know, it's just that mentality is going to be attracted to something like a Trump.
no, 100%. And look, I'm not trying to solve for the whole problem. I'm just saying, if every Latino in the country, for example, given the ICE raids and everything else, we're all feeling very attacked, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if, just as a revolutionary thought, rather than fight back with violence or fight back even with protest for a minute, although protest is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. What if we just said, you know what? What we're going to do is that every weekend we're going to reach out to our white neighbors in West Virginia and in Kentucky and in Alabama and in all the places where this behavior is most prominent. And we're going to invite them to our cookouts. And let's just say in a hypothetical world, we managed to get one out of every 10 poor, disillusioned white people into a cookout scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Once a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think those people would start trying to build something like that.
I don't disagree. And I think that
it's a magnet. It starts to draw.
Right. And
it doesn't have to draw that many.
I think the benefit there, obviously social media is a double-edged sword. The first argument is the one that you made, that it's kind of riding our brains and they're eating Tide Pods and punching themselves in the face.
They're eating fucking Tide Pods.
Stuff,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas I also use it to expose people to exactly what you're talking about, right? Because look at how everyone overreacted. Bad Bunny's coming on to Super Bowl. Oh, fuck this.
Right.
And I'm like, y'all bitches don't understand.
Right. No, and I would agree with you to the extent that, like, I remember when Ricky Martin played the Grammys.
Yeah.
And when he blew up.
Yeah.
And I remember as a Latino, I was in college and I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, a lot of people are going to get something that they've never got.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the great benefits of being Latino is, like, I learned how to fall in love primarily from two people, Luis Miguel and Julio Iglesias. And, like, once love is Luis Miguel's version of love, there's no woman on earth that will accept anything less than that. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Because as Einstein said, once the brain expands to a better idea, it never returns to its original size. And so part of what I'm talking about, I think social media is limiting only because I think acceptance is a human thing that requires physical presence.
Yep.
But that does not discount what you're saying. I think all of it, we have to give people access to the things that make our lives so rich.
Right.
We have to break bread. We have to sow seeds. We have to give these people.
If I were doing a political campaign for this country, I would encourage every Latino, every Asian, and every Black family to make a meal and take it over to some house who's a bigoted, poor white person, and bring him a meal of your favorite cooking from your favorite country, from your home country.
Mm-hmm.
Bring them that. Bring them the camaraderie. I don't know how we structure it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to build a program. I'm just saying, I'm pretty fucking certain that the pursuit of peace and quiet would end as soon as you find out how fucking peaceful joy and loudness can be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Amen, brother.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. once you expose people to a proper game of dominoes with proper rum, with music at a certain volume, with a little bit of dancing and the kids running around,
dude.
and the fucking and drank at the exact temperature before freezing somehow, and like Johnny Keke and all of these joyful things, I think you start to fucking give people a better sense of meaning. And so my point to you guys is, I'm protesting because that was step one. We needed to get the protest done. Direct actions are also going to be negative, meaning negative in the sense that they're confrontational and adversarial.
Mhm.
But a huge part of this is building a positive track too, and reminding people of what it is that life is worth living for.
Amen.
And what we're doing in Christmas. So we just did the mass blackout. And it's interesting because the mass blackout got a lot of press.
Yeah.
Well, today we just sent out the press release for a 7-day program in Christmas, organized by the same coalition, by the mass blackout. But instead of blacking it out, we're having a 7 days, like an advent calendar, called the 7 days of Giveness. And the idea is each day has a theme. We're going to feed people, we're going to house people, and we're going to build up our mutual aid muscles. And none of it is confrontational and none of it is adversarial. And guess what? None of it is getting as much media play as the blackout got.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of up to us as a people to say, you know what? This is a 7-day program. If you go to themassblackout.com, you can read about each day what you can do. Why don't we as a people, you talk about social media, Carlos, that's where we go out and we promote the light.
Yeah.
Be the light.
And we need so much more of that. If I could have anybody build an organization, it would be Latino outreach, to go into communities, white communities, and teach them who we are.
Yeah.
Because the complexity of that will draw them. We are so much more culturally sophisticated than Americans have ever been allowed to be. And it's not their fault. The country was too big and too independent. If you think about it, the world is like a spectrum, and China is very collectivist. Everything gets done for the greater good, right? For the mass. In America, we do everything based on self-interest. So we have, and if you go around the world, it kind of tracks perfectly that the closer you get to China, the more collectivist the mentality seems to become, right? It's like the world is a spectrum. And all we have to do is move from self-interest to slightly less self-interest. And we will already alleviate so much of this pressure that's been built, because a lot of that pressure is the stress of being self-reliant.
Yeah.
I rode a motorcycle, a Harley Davidson, with no windshield to the Arctic Ocean. And I can tell you something about being alone. Because when you're alone in the Arctic and you don't have a backup tire, and if your tire blows, you're fucking dead.
Yeah.
You start to appreciate your tires, for one thing. But the other thing you start to appreciate is that we're all in this together as human beings.
Huh.
There's no amount of achievement I can have in my life that if it's not recognized by other people, it doesn't matter, right? I'm going to die. I'm a piece of carbon. I'm a blip in the universal sense. Nothing matters. The only reason things matter is because we matter to each other, or we at least are supposed to. And all we have to do is start giving slightly more of a shit about each other to correct for the stress. Because have you ever been alone, in danger and alone? It's the worst feeling in the world. The stress of not knowing what you're going to do.
Yeah.
When you're so broke that you don't have money for food and you have somebody to feed. That feeling. Too many fucking Americans have to live in that feeling.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me that you're going to have a happy life while you're living in that fucking condition? Of course you're going to be angry.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is move. We don't have to become China. We don't even have to become Europe. We just have to move the needle slightly towards the middle of the Atlantic, maybe. Just get slightly more concerned about each other. Open our doors to each other.
Yeah.
Hey, here's my culture if it can help you, and I'm going to teach you so that we can change it and build it together and be in it together. Because if we don't do that, we may win this battle, but we're going to lose the war. And losing the war means losing the country. And that's an outcome that then potentially destroys the planet, all because we couldn't figure out how to take the nicest stage ever built and put on a fucking play.
Yeah.
And that's a really fucking, and because we got so spoiled that we think everything has to be done for us. And frankly, democracy is an ongoing fucking project that we have to work on.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's exhausting, and it's supposed to be exhausting. And then we're supposed to earn it so that the weekends start to feel like weekends again. You know, you work your ass off during the week, and then you get home and you sit, and the merengue kicks off, and the fucking bachata kicks off, and the dominoes start capicua, and suddenly everybody's happy. And I don't know how to externalize that, but I think somebody needs to start worrying about that, because honestly, the only way we get back into this is if we are breaking up, and we need to get back together. We need to find joy together again.
Joy.
Yeah. And let me tell you, again, I got to talk to another one of my cousins who is MAGA. He considers himself MAGA. He's a Cuban kid, born in Chicago, raised in Puerto Rico, but he lives in Florida now, and he's MAGA.
Yeah. But
And
MAGA is identity
hang on.
to Cubans.
Yeah, exactly. But, and I'll say this real quick. For as MAGA as he is, and he is a vocal MAGA supporter, we agreed on the majority of the things that we talked about.
Right.
I told him, you see, we agree on most everything.
Right.
Just take the homophobia and the racism out of whatever you're saying, and we could be good.
Totally. No, but remember, for Cubans, there's an additional complication, which is that they were running from something.
Yeah.
When you're running from something, you always inadvertently put yourself back into the thing you were running from.
Isn't it crazy?
Damn.
What the Israeli government is doing is what is not the same, but close to what the German position was towards Jews, right? And they created Israel, and now they're behaving in a similar fashion towards Gaza as what they were treated like. And that's not to say all Jews, but the government of Israel is. It's kind of mirroring what the government of Germany did.
Yeah.
And that's because it creates a cycle of uncertainty. And the only way to answer a cycle of uncertainty is through certainty. And the only way to create certainty is through tyranny.
Yeah.
So these are cycles. These are natural cycles. All we have to do is interrupt them slightly. We don't even have to reinvent the wheel. We know this game. For Cubans, I mean, when I talk to Cubans one-on-one, I can usually convince them to back off from.
Yeah.
But it's funny because the thing that always gets them is the orange face. As Latinos, if I look at them square in the face and you're going, tú me vas a decir a mí que tú estás votando por el tipo que naranja.
Right.
That connects. The fact that he's orange seems to make them to cut right across their biases.
Right.
And they go, well, I mean, and I'm like, you're glitching because you're glitching, and you're glitching because you're Latino. And you know that if you paint yourself orange, there's something fucking wrong with you.
Right. And how many, like, and just to add context to what you're about to finish, like when you're Latino, like people always look at me and they're like, oh, you're going to color your hair and all that. I'm like, no, this is what it looks like.
This is
when
me.
you take 53 years of ass whippings, this is what it looks like.
And I'm perfect. I've earned my scars. And
and I feel perfect. Exactly.
Dude, we are a product of our experience, because we are all a product of our experience. The nice thing about being Latino is that we're the laziest people and also the hardest working people. And the reason is because when we know shit needs to get done, so we work our asses off to get it done. But then when we disconnect, we literally do not give a fuck about anything that's important.
We work hard so we can chill.
We can chill. And what I find is that when I'm talking to Cubans in Miami, I can usually convince them based on shit that is not political. It's like, he's orange, bro.
Yeah.
And they go, well, yeah, no. Let's not move on from there.
Yeah.
He's orange. Literally spray paints his face orange.
Yeah.
It ends up on the collar of his shirt. He's orange.
Yeah.
And as long as I stay on orange, they go, yeah. Well, and they just keep not, because there's no answer.
Right. And if you took that orange off, he looks like he's literally dying. He looks like he has one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel.
Yeah, no. And we just got some private info from potentially some of his doctors. So we're working to validate that. But the news on the medical side seems to be very bad for him.
Yeah.
That said, all I can say is, guys, I think we're looking at this wrong. I think we're looking at this as a battle between two sides, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who have been oppressing our people for many generations, going all the way back to the founding of the Republic, who now find themselves in that same position.
Mm-hmm.
And they are obviously not handling it well, compounding the problem by electing Donald Trump and making it difficult, more difficult. I think our instinct is to want to fight, but anybody who's ever operated in a civil war setting, and I sadly have, can tell you that is not an outcome that is tenable. It's not. The moment that happens, we've lost. Everybody's lost, and we've lost 100%. In a way that's irrevocable. What we have to recognize is that everything that our instincts are telling us would feel good, but would move us further away from a solution. And what we should be doing as the people who are more aware, as the more caring and empathetic side, is to reach out and embrace these people and give them a path out and lead them out and show them a better way. And we don't have to capture all of them. We capture 1 out of 10 and we've removed the political problem. We capture 2 out of 10 and we've substantially reduced the cultural problem. We somehow figure out how to capture half of them, and we're back to not just good, we're back to thriving.
Yeah. And calling them names and doing that stuff that you're talking about. It's not
working.
That's not
and it feels really good. And it's like one of the main problems I have with some of the people in our movement is that they want to go out and just call people names. And I'm like, dude, you're going to run out of words and they're not hearing you anyway. Because the algorithm isn't going to put you in front of them because they block one of you and they block all of you, right?
Right.
So just stop doing things because it makes you feel good and start doing things because it's the right thing to do within a strategy to achieve the outcome that you actually want. Let's grow the fuck up. And my job sucks because I have to be a grown-up in an environment of children while being Dominican, which is anathema to who I am. All I want to do is call them names, bro.
Yeah.
It feels so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But it would lead us to perdition. And the one thing I can't do is lose this country while I still know better. I don't mind losing if I lose straight, but I don't.
Right.
But I have a very clear idea of what the problem is, and I think I have a very clear idea of what the solution is. And I need support, and I need people to buy in and say, we're going to fund you, we're going to help you, we're going to unify. You know, there shouldn't be organizations in this movement that are not talking to us and to each other and to everybody. I don't care if you're communist or MAGA. If you're in it to remove Trump and to deal with the underlying issues, I want to work with you. And ultimately, I think we have to find empathy and find humanity and remember why we're here and that we're doing this together.
Yeah. My message to folks when I talk to them is I understand the handout thing and I understand not wanting a a society that always has its hand out. I understand all of that. But we need to get to the point where we are building wonderful Americans.
Right.
And everyone understands that we're Americans. And I don't even care if we're bickering in the house. And by the house, I mean in the States. I don't even care about that.
No, that's healthy.
But when we're in the streets, it don't matter the color.
Right.
It don't matter the color.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get there.
White folks need to understand that. Like when I put my name on that dotted line, it was colorblind.
Right. No,
I was here to kick ass for you as well.
Right. For everybody.
For everybody.
No, and I think we look, I still believe. Not only do I believe, I'm optimistic. We haven't lost the battle yet. We're the most successful broke movement in history. We have not lost a battle yet. We have literally everything that I have wanted to achieve, I have achieved it ahead of schedule. Everything that I am aware of other leaders in the movement wanting to achieve, they have achieved ahead of schedule. The election was unanimous. That's never happened in history. The Epstein files are about to come out. That was almost unanimous because of us. Trump is the least popular president in history now. 29% approval. That's a historic low.
Outrageous.
And it's funny because I think in 2 years, peacefully, we're going to do what took the Germans 12 with a war.
Yeah.
But I also don't want people to become disheartened because it's going to take time and it's going to take effort.
Sure.
And the main thing that pisses me off is when people say, well, what are you going to do about it? Meaning me. And I'm like, dude, the only way to disagree with me is to do what you think I should be doing. Like, there is no other except either you pay me and hold me accountable through money, or you can't complain about what I do. You can only do what you think I should be doing, because I can't be a volunteer.
You can't get mad at free.
You can't get mad at free. You know. So either fund me or shut the fuck up. But you can't have both ways.
You can't have both.
Damn.
Dude. It's
Real
so
quick,
frustrating though.
Tell the story about how you started this organization, because that was pretty quick.
Yeah. So, okay. So there's background. In 2020, I oversaw strategic communications efforts for an organization called Protect Democracy. I had been running my transportation company, and they assembled essentially the Avengers of politics, a bipartisan group of lawyers, lobbyists, and communications professionals to protect the 2020 election. I oversaw 49 national campaigns, beginning with the Wall of Moms in Portland. I helped produce the second impeachment trial. I got Emily Murphy to certify the election. I did the Biden bus that was attacked in Texas, that lawsuit for Wendy Davis. All of these efforts, the Protect Democracy was leading, and we had organized a coalition of about 400 groups to protect the 2020 election. Time magazine wrote 2 articles. One of them was called The Secret Bipartisan Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election. So it was a remarkable effort. The only difference from there to now is that nobody knew my name then or the name of the other people involved. And I was working for other people. I was just heading up communications efforts, but I answered to others. That said, I've never had a run of success like that. It was 49 national campaigns and they all worked. So it was awesome. But genuinely, once Biden won and the election went off, more importantly, it wasn't even about Biden. It was more about having an election in the context of Trump and the pandemic, right? And figuring that shit out. But once we had a successful election and Biden won, I thought, I'm done. 2 years later, a woman named Nina Jankowicz had been appointed by Joe Biden to run something called the Disinformation Governance Board at the Department of Homeland Security. And the goal of her board was to unify government efforts, or to have best practices against foreign-born disinformation threats like deep fakes and bot farms and all of these problems that we're facing because of AI and all of these challenges. But Jim Jordan and the Republicans accused her of being a minister of truth. She was 35 weeks pregnant, and she was getting more death threats than any American has ever received. She was literally the most attacked human being in American history. Her best friend had kind of served as a deputy to me at Protect Democracy. And she called me, and I was functionally retired from politics. I was like, I'm done. We saved America. I'm done. And so, but she called me and she said, look, my friend is in trouble. She needs immediate crisis communications help. Can you help? And, you know, I'm Dominican. I'm hearing about a damsel in distress. She's 35 weeks pregnant.
What we do.
I'm like, this is what we do. This is what we do. Oh, but yeah. So I helped her, and to her credit, Nina is an amazing human being, and she wouldn't have needed help anyway, but we landed the plane, and we did it well. She went on Chris Hayes and had the most effective interview I've ever seen in my life. It was a sight to see. Closer to the election, the beginning of election year last year, she called me and said, I want to start an organization to do the work that we were meant to be doing at the DHS around disinformation threats. Would you launch it with me? And I said, absolutely. I was, you know, it would be a joy to work on an issue that matters, but it's not, at the time I'm thinking, it's not as central to the election as what we did at Protect Democracy, so it'll be less stressful. Fuck my life. Kamala Harris became the nominee, and it all became again about gender disinformation and all of that. We became the most, so Protect Democracy had been the most cited political nonprofit in 2020. Now we had the most cited political nonprofit in 2024 with 1/40th the budget, because our issues became the issues. And our research revealed shit that ended up producing indictments and shit. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was work that mattered, finding bot farms and sending things to, you know, government agencies so that they could look into it, that kind of thing. And then I was up for a job that I can't really talk about. I didn't end up getting it for circumstances fully beyond my control. But I had left the organization because I thought I would need a break if I started doing that job. I didn't end up the job didn't end up not happening. So during the transition, I was just kind of sitting on my hands, watching the Democrats not do anything. And I assumed that they would brand an opposition campaign like the Contract with America. But here's how we're going to oppose Trump, and here's the vision for after Trump. And, you know, like a full deck. And it just kept not happening. Right. So on January 25th or 26th or something, I was like, I posted on social media, I'm like, maybe I should just start an organization to do the work that the Democrats are failing to do. And thousands of people were like, yeah, man, you should definitely do that. Mind you, these people didn't know my resume. So serendipitously, the next day I launched American Opposition, and I called for a national day of protest on February 5th. It turned out that there was a group on Reddit making a similar call. They wanted 50 protests at 50 state capitals in one day. I wanted to state capitals, city halls, and town halls because I live in Colorado, and I know that most people can't make it to the state capital. So I thought they should just be able to go to their local city hall and their town hall. And they wanted to do it at like 2 p.m., but I wanted to do it at noon because I wanted people to use their lunch break to be able to go and protest and come back. Because we were doing it during a weekday, and I thought people are going to need access. So lunch makes sense. That group became 50-51. We eventually found each other. And before the first protest, we reconciled those things. And they basically took my version. We did city halls and town halls, as you guys saw, and over 1 million people showed up.
Yeah, man. Amazing.
And then
congratulations.
The national head of that effort basically said to me, I know you want to do something on President's Day, which was like 12 days after, on February 17th. And they said, look, can you call for that? And we'll join your call. Because we haven't really figured out how to pick dates yet. Like, they just hadn't figured out the internal process. So I was like, hell yeah, no problem. So what? It's literally on Threads. It's the first post from February 6th from American Opposition saying, now that went well, let's do it again on President's Day. And we hashtagged it, Not My President Day.
Yeah.
But 50-51 was like, we're going to join your call, but we don't like your hashtag. Because we don't want to make the protest about whether the election were legitimate. Not that there isn't legitimate question about that, but we just don't want to focus on that. We want to focus on Trump and fascism and all that. And they said, we're going to hashtag it No Kings. And I thought, great, whatever you want to do. That sounds fine by me. You know, it's simple, it's nice. To be honest, I didn't have much of a thought of it at all, except that on the posters, everybody started putting No Kings, Not My President's Day. They were weird posters because they were like, some of them had both, you know? They had our logos and different messages, and it was just kind of off, slightly off. But over 2 million people showed up. And so that was technically the first No Kings protest. But more importantly, that was the protest where people felt like, oh, maybe coming out is safe. Then on March 14th, Jessica Denson and Cliff Cash had the Now Veterans March in DC. And Jessica, keep in mind, I had done the communications for Jessica's case where she invalidated all of the Trump campaign non-disclosure agreements. So I met her when I worked at Protect Democracy, and we became friends. So she had seen what I was doing and says, come out to our march and give a speech. And I said, great. And to be honest, I gave a speech. It was like, I'm going to write it and I'm just going to say exactly what I think, both against Republicans, but also against Democrats. I'm just going to, and I think, to be honest, that speech was ahead of its time. Because the people who were there, I've never seen any crowd react to anything the way that people reacted to that speech. To this day, people talk to me about that speech more than they talk to me about anything else I've done. And what I realized, because I rarely, if ever, watch my speeches back, right?
Mhm.
But at some point recently, like a month ago, I rewatched that one only because after a while, I was just like, man, what the fuck? Like, why do people like it so much? So I sat and I watched it. And what I realized is I was saying then what I am saying, what we as a society are saying now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was so connected strategically to my vision for what I needed to do to solve this that I had kind of weirdly written it into a speech, but in a way that connected the then to the now, and that gave people a sense that somebody knows what the fuck is going on and what needs to be done to solve this.
Right.
And then between the first and the second protest, I had written that, literally just wrote the words like, buying a Tesla is supporting a Nazi. Boycott Tesla.
Just scribble in my notebook.
Well, I wrote it on Threads or one of the socials. And they started the Tesla takedown 8 days or 9 days after I wrote that. And then Elon tweeted about me and called me evil. And between Elon's tweet and that speech, I think some people were like, maybe this guy is fit for leadership in this moment. And I also have to compound that with what I'm trying to do with American Opposition, which is American Opposition. Somebody described it recently in a way that blew my mind, because it was the first time that I felt appreciated on the technical merits of the project that I'm engaged in, right? Because I don't think of it as a technical strategic communications and community engagement project on a day-to-day basis, but I am bringing my professional skills to bear, right? And somebody said, it looks like a brand, behaves like I forget the exact quote. It looks like a brand, behaves like a campaign, and grows like a popular uprising.
Ooh, all right.
And I thought, man, they're finally getting it. Because I'm trying to innovate. You talk about innovation, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to innovate a solution to this moment in this culture, in influencer culture. How do you create a grassroots movement in this environment? Well, it looks like a brand.
Yeah.
It operates like a campaign, and it grows like a popular movement, right? So it's element of a hybrid that has never, frankly, just never been attempted before. And it becomes a hub, because we don't need to own the whole movement. We're just setting strategy, and hopefully people find their way to marrying to our strategy. But like all the departments at Google, they can do their work independently. As long as we're all pointed in the same direction and becomes predictable for me, I can keep strategizing and keep developing and keep pushing, right? And as time goes on, you gain trust. When trust is ultimately what builds this, right? Because I remember in the second month, I couldn't convince anybody to do anything for me. For the mass blackout, I think I made 60 calls in 2 hours and nobody said no. Because I think now people realize that when I say it, I mean it, and that they can trust me. And no, this is found, but that's the other thing, is like, people think leadership is replaceable because we're living in an age where everybody thinks they can do everything.
Right.
But it took me 9 months to earn the fucking trust of the movement so that I can call people and get them to fucking do shit together.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not replaceable time.
No.
And so a lot of people just don't see the effort that goes into it. And the other problem I have is that I tend to make things look easy. So everybody's like, what do you do?
That's a problem.
Yeah, it creates a challenge. But my point to you guys is, like, I had this very clear vision. I know what we need to do to defeat Donald Trump. I know it exactly. I know what we have the skill sets on board, meaning the team is right. Whatever I can get. I'm missing money and I'm missing unification. And if I can get those two things, particularly one or two groups that just seem to be very intractable because they operate like traditional political groups, which are more interested in donors and C4, C3, C4 status, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, if we lose this one, your C4 status is not going to matter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
This is the battle to end all battles. But then on the flip side, there's also like new partnerships forming because some groups that have been historically very cautious are now going like, the stakes are really high. We want to jump. So I'm seeing all of that. But what I would like to see is unification, at least around the strategy, total marriage. We say, this is our strategy and we're going to develop it and we're going to keep pushing it. And then money, and not just money, but so much money that we can fight to fight fairly.
Right.
And Stephen Miller has 100 million, but Donald Trump's other PAC has like 250 million. And you start sitting there going, dude, I don't even need 10 million, but at least give me 10 million so that I at least feel like if I need to hire somebody on the last minute and pay them top dollar to get them away from Goldman Sachs, give me the ability to do that because I'm going to need some data people that are smart, that are getting paid $500,000 a year.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't
Have you tried starting your own cryptocurrency? It works for the Trump Foundation.
It literally was an idea at one point to create a meme coin called the American Opposition coin.
Yeah.
Because that's how desperate I've become to try to figure out the fundraising problem.
Yeah.
And the main challenge with the fundraising to me is like, normally I worked at Protect Democracy, and I don't want to throw them under the bus too much, but they wrote this document that made me laugh because Protect Democracy has not shown up in this game. They just haven't. They've been writing a lot of blog posts and doing a lot of analysis, and they've been co-counsel on a lawsuit or two, but they haven't targeted Trump directly. They haven't really played in the main ball field this time around. And by the way, I give them tremendous credit for what we did in 2020. So I'm not trying to like hurt my former team, but I'm just being real with you.
Right.
They just haven't shown up. They've become a think tank. And like, there's no thinking that's going to get us out of this. Now it's time for action.
We think we need to do.
Yeah. So I went, but I was on LinkedIn and my former boss's post came up where they're basically saying, we're winning.
Damn.
It made me physically laugh. I was like, wow. And I looked at the things that they cited, and you guys can go for yourselves. It's If You Can Keep It is the name of the blog. And there's an article explaining what they've done. And the list is like 5 or 6 things. And they're very specific and they don't seem to like drive at the main issue, but we're winning. It's an amazing statement of the declaratory judgment that they are winning. And I'm sitting here frustrated because they have a huge budget. And my God, if I had those resources, I definitely would be trying to fucking actually win. You know what I'm saying? So I have a little bit of frustration around that, but I also, the main frustration that I came from myself is like, then I looked at we have an internal list of all the shit we've done. And I put it up next to their list. And it made me fucking sad because they have a budget of tens of millions of dollars. And I've done with $80,000, not to do my own horn, man, but it's not a close call. You know what I'm saying? We launched the first No Kings protest, which means we launched the No Kings movement. We launched the Tesla boycott. We did the Disney thing. We've fed or helped on the Target thing and on the total economic blackout. We did July 4th by ourselves because Indivisible and 5051 wouldn't join us. So we went around them and got their chapters to do it without them. We did Remove the Regime. We've done, if you go on our website and you look at the work page, it's every fucking thing. The largest veterans protest in American history, the D-Day event. That was literally my guy, Tim, my head of media relations, who came up with it. And like, we've done all this shit. Never mind the shit we've supported by others doing. Never mind the mass blackout and all the shit that we do in coalition with others. But we're leaders. We show up. We do stuff. And again, I have an internal list. We don't publish it publicly because I'm not interested in credit or ownership or whatever. Mm-hmm. But when I compare my list to their list, And I'm sitting here going, where the fuck is my 10 millions of dollars? Millions. You know what I'm saying? And again, not to begrudge them and not to, because I don't want to create the appearance of division within the movement. I love them and I want them to do more. And if I'm frustrated with them, it's because I think they can do more and they've chosen a more limited role, and that frustrates me. Because I know what we did in 2020 and I would like them to bring it at that same level now. So it's not petty, and I'm not trying to be, but there is a fucking delta between our resources and theirs, or our resources and indivisibles' resources. And I kind of sit here and go, what, dude, we all need help. We all need support.
Yeah.
And why is it going to the people it's going to? And what, like, I don't understand it enough to fix it. But until I fix it, I feel like I'm being very Dominican and doing the best I can with what I have. But man, if I had more, I could end this fight in a couple months, straight up. If I had $20 million at my disposal and a good advertising agency, Donald Trump would not be able to get out of bed in 2 months.
Well, we'll make sure this clip right here gets put out then.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say is if you remember earlier in our conversation, you know, when you're gathering information and you're putting yourself in these situations where you're able to, one, glean information, gather experience, and then build that network. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You've been not tooting your own horn for a long time now. So I'm gonna not toot mine and say I used to work at Leo Burnett in Chicago.
Okay.
I used to work down in Hollywood. I've also put it in. And I think one of the big things that it sounds to me like you are one of the um back of the restaurant guys. You're the
Yeah.
chef.
The back
You're
of the house.
cooking and you're doing all the things, right?
Now, the way to
You
think
just
about
need
me
front
is
of the restaurant. That's all.
right. The way to think about me is I'm a political consultant working pro bono for the American people to win the campaign against fascism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only giving speeches because that seems to have resonated. My preference is to work fully behind the scenes. I will get in front of the scenes because I have to.
Mm-hmm.
But frankly, I don't want to be
Sometimes the
known.
chef
I don't
has
want
to
to be
come out.
remembered. Yeah,
Sometimes the chef has to come out. You can come
That's
flex
fair.
a little bit.
And that's a really good analogy. No, I have a really hard time with the whole flexing thing because people I've lived the most ludicrous life I'm aware of, and that's a condition that I'm not sure any human that I know has ever had, right? Like, I've never read a story of a life and gone, that's crazier than mine. You know what I mean? It's just but secondly, it's because people read me as arrogant. So when I talk about myself, I'm always very cautious
Mm-hmm.
of not wanting to come across that way because I can't help it. Because frankly, it's not how I feel inside, but it's how people read me. And so I tend to back away from talking about my own things. But in this situation, it handcuffs me a little bit because I just haven't been able to raise the money. And frankly, again, our entire budget for everything we have contemplated is like $5.5-6 million, which in a political sense is a drop in the bucket. And for as much success as we've had nationally, it should not be difficult to raise this money or more.
Right.
But I failed at this. I have failed at it, and I need to either fix it or find somebody to take it and run with it. Because honestly, I have failed at it, and for as long as I fail at it, we're stuck. And I know enough to know I'm not going to get better at this enough to fix it. Right? Like right now, it's got to be taken over. I can't do it. I'm just not good at it.
You're muted, Carlos.
Oh, no.
The other Carlos.
Oh, yeah. The other caller. You're muted. Can't hear you. Mute.
Oh man.
No, he's putting.
We can hear
I think
you.
he's talking to somebody in the room. I don't think
Sounds
he's
like.
talking.
Oh, put the mic in. What happened?
I don't know. Look at him. He's there's a lot going on in this room. Oh yeah. There's people.
I
Somebody's
got.
smoking a joint across from him. I
Look,
see what's
he's
going
like,
on.
look at these lights, man.
He's having fun. There's fucking lights. I know. Now I want to be in that room, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. Nope.
I want to be in that party. And we can't hear you. We can't
You
hear
can
you.
keep on knocking, but you can't come in.
But he's
You laugh, man. He'll come back on.
yeah. Oh, there he is. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, he's back. But now you're in the middle of the
See?
screen.
You're figuring everything out.
I see what.
But your hat is still excellent. So
He did it on purpose. So he's in the middle.
No, what I was trying to say before my old ass Mike decided to take a break was, I think what you're doing today is a really important step in getting to that point, because I think there was a lot of momentum with No Kings. There was a lot of momentum with Remove the Regime and all that stuff. And yeah, you are out there and you're on getting interviewed and your speeches are being broadcast out to the news. But I don't know if many people are tapped into the news that way.
right.
Right. And
No,
so
and frankly,
if
I don't
you
talk
go
to
to where the
mainstream media
people
either.
are, which is the social media and stuff like that. So now
Yeah, I don't.
we
and
start
I
to
don't
figure
do.
out.
I don't do that mostly because I don't want to talk to complicit media.
Right.
Like I have, dude. The problem is that I also make this more complicated for myself because I have very strong values around how I want to approach this problem. And sometimes, like, I won't trade money for control, for example, because one of the things that pollutes is the influence of money. When a donor gives you money and then they want to tell you what to do, that's a problem. When you're talking to media that are then perpetuating the problem, that's a problem. Like the biggest feature, the feature that Boing Boing, which is a huge blog, I love it, but they're a blog, right? And they did this feature on our strategy. And I just wish that had gotten global, right? So that people could understand there is a fucking reason we're doing everything. And I wish people understood the results better. And I see you and I hear you. But part of it is that I haven't been great about it because I do have this very clear vision in my head that I just don't want to do it cheaply.
Right.
Because part of my proposal as a leader is if I do things because I believe in them, then people will join me because I believe in them and they share that belief.
Right.
And I don't want to fall prey to hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Because that's the easy way.
Yep.
And the main lesson I've learned in my life, and we talked about people learning their own lessons and failing to learn the lessons of others. Well, I have learned those lessons the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I bring, I think, is authenticity of the fact that I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. My 20s were the most fun. My 30s were very fun.
Charlie.
And right. A lot of things. But everything I've learned for real, and everything I've done for real, and everything I'm doing now, everything I did in 2020, where I already succeeded at this and I can do it again. And I know I can because I've done it before.
Sure.
But I don't want to fall prey to hypocrisy. I don't want to sell out the process because then I feel like I'm kicking my own ass in the long term in terms of my ability to sustain this for as long as it takes. Because the other thing I'm keenly aware of is until he dies or, because of the stress, I'm going to have to keep fighting this fight. This is not a thing where we can give up. Even if he lives out the remaining 3 years, we still have to sustain. And so I have to be built for a marathon, but I have to be running sprints at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the only way to do that is to be my authentic self every day, warts and all. This is me, America. I'm going to do my best. I need your trust. I need your belief. I need your support. And, frankly, let me disconnect every once in a while and don't fucking text me about anything that's not hugely important. Because
I gotta let you know that when I put out the song and Carlos did the video for it, the other Carlos, this Carlos, my wife sent it to her uncle, and she's like, "Oh man," he's like, "You got to get this to like the coalitions, like American Opposition." That was his very first one that he mentioned. He's in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like you're the movement is felt, and you're connecting to people because you are who you are. You're transparent in who you are.
Yeah.
And I, when you're in sales and you have plenty of accounts, you can be either a greasy car salesman or you could be you. And the best way to sell your product is to sell yourself.
Mhm.
And you're doing this in all of his glory, man. Your humbleness, even in your wild, like riding giraffes and shit, and all this other stuff, down to people sitting in your cab. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? The humbleness
Yeah.
and the humility and the ability to be vulnerable and taking that and saying, you know what, here it is.
I am who I am, man.
Me.
What can I
Let's
do?
fix it. Let's fix some
And
shit.
Let's fucking fix it.
And that's the difference between a manager and a leader.
And the Powerball. I must win.
Let's
This
go.
is,
We all
this is
win.
very
Diosito
important
lindo, let them hit
for
so we can get some
America.
change.
Oye,
Oh,
mira,
baby, come on.
tú comprate la quiniela. You remember?
On that note,
30,000 pesos, la
Hey,
lotería.
hey, do you have a dream book?
No, I have scrapbooks. I do keep scrapbooks. I don't keep dream books because I have no more dreams to live, man. I've lived all
No,
my
you know
dreams.
the dream books that you say, oh, I dreamt of a unicorn
Oh,
riding
yeah,
a
no, no.
wave, and then you go, all right, we got to play 11, 24.
No.
All right, cool.
I do have numbers because you can't be Dominican without having numbers. But no, my great grandmother used to read my coffee. You would drink the coffee and then she would burn the coffee in and read the cup. I come from full Dominican. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
my family, the pastel en hoja, which is a classic Dominican thing,
Mm-hmm.
was invented by my mom's family.
Damn.
My blood. I did that DNA thing, and I had Taino, which is the Dominican native tribe.
Yep.
And then like 24 African bloodlines before any whiteness happened.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, like, that is the power of that island. It's like, you're a mutt in the best sense. Nobody ever had. We were all in it together forever. And I think one of the main challenges we face as Americans is to turn this into one country again.
Yeah.
And I think that is all about us going against our instincts and reaching out when we want to fight, we should be reaching out. If your instinct is X, do Y, do the opposite. Because honestly, right now, all of our emotional instincts are to fight and to divide and to conquer. And that's not what's going to get us out of this problem ultimately, because this problem is not Trump. That's how we're going to get Trump out. But how we get back in it with each other, that is where the Dominicanness provides such a joyful path forward of saying, you know what? It's been done before.
Yeah.
Through a lot of music and a lot of drinking, we will figure this out.
we'll find
together.
out.
I reached out to the Taino conference. There's a whole group that's trying to bring recognition to the Taino tribe and all that stuff. They said that I'm hoping to get them on the channel before too long.
Yeah, it would be great. And for those that don't know, the Taino people were largely exterminated. There are very few Tainos of any sort of actual Taino-ness left. They were the tribes of the Caribbean, and they were particularly susceptible to disease and war because they were on islands, so they couldn't go anywhere. So unlike the Aztecs and the Inca, there's not too many, but it's in my blood. It connects me to my island originally, which I love. And I love also having grown up there because, again, had I grown up in the States, I think I would see things differently. I'm so lucky that I had the experience of living in that place at that time, before phones, when shit was real. Because it's been an education that has served me every single day in this thing. Something that, again, you talk about replaceability. That's one of the things that scares me, is that we're living in a society where people just think that you can replace experience with notoriety, and you just can't. Wisdom and knowing what to do, it's fucking. We don't even have,
you used to have the masters, and then you would
the
have
apprentices.
the apprentices. We don't even have apprentices. I don't even mean to bring that up. He even ruined that word.
Damn it, man.
No, but you know what I'm saying? But it's actually a really,
yeah.
no, I mean, that horrible episodes aside, No, it's a huge part of the problem. And it's interesting how clear it is to me because of where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And like it feels like a superpower, but it's like, if you had asked me every day while I was growing up, where do you want to be? Miami. Why? I wanted to live in Miami for two reasons. Why? 24-hour electricity and hot water. Like
Yeah.
that was as big as my dreams could go. And I was part of a privileged family, but that was still my dream. I was like, Miami.
Did
They
you
have
ever
Toys R
accomplish
Us.
it?
Well, no, I moved to Tampa for boarding school.
Yeah.
Close enough. I lived in Florida.
Yeah.
It was Tampa. I mean, what are you going to do?
I lived in Miami. It was worth it.
No, I mean, I lived in Miami later. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
okay.
worth it. Are you
Okay.
kidding me?
Yeah.
You go to Mint and you go to Mint and you go to Mansion and you go to Living Room and you go to all of the clubs in Miami. Miami is fantastic. You can't survive for more than 3 days, but you're going to do great for 3 days.
Yeah.
After
You better
that-
rest up in the beginning and rest
Totally.
up at the end.
Yeah, no, I went as far one year. One summer I lived in Miami and I rented an apartment on the beach, and my family had a house in Coral Gables, and I rented the apartment on the beach. And my dad said to me, "Why are you renting an apartment so close? Right? You could just come back home. You want to go out? You can come and stay with us." And I said, "Dad, they do DUI checks on the bridge."
Yeah.
You know, going out of the beach. They
Yeah.
have and I said, "I can't deal with that."
Hell no.
So yeah, no, Miami is
Always been a
crazy
thinker. I
city.
see you've always been a thinker.
Always. I was like, but the other thing is I didn't want to bring those women home, you know, because
Damn, my
those
couple,
times, yeah, you never knew who you were dealing with, man.
fellas. I gotta go, man.
Oh no, dude, are you kidding me? We've been
Oh,
on
man.
for like 3 hours. It's crazy.
Yeah,
My
we can wrap it up.
Yeah, no,
Carlos.
guys, it's been such a joy.
Carlos, if people want to follow up with you and your organizations and all of your efforts online, where can they find you?
AmericanOpposition.org. It's at American Opposition on all the platforms. Just Google American Opposition. I mean, I think we've achieved that much. I'm pretty sure that you
Yeah.
can just Google American Opposition. And
Yeah.
I would ask people to subscribe to our newsletter. It's how
Mhm.
we go. It's how we send out information when it's actually important. And then to donate. That's the main thing is they can go on our website. We also have an Act Blue link. You know, it's around. But figure out ways to donate. Please donate. If you want to make big donations, we're a super PAC. We can take unlimited donations. We can, you know, all of that dark money stuff works in our favor in this case. If you want to do it through a donor directed fund and you want to donate $1 million and not have anybody know it was you, that is possible. Like, sadly, that's where the law is. So that benefits us as much as it benefits the other side at this
Yeah.
moment. But my point is, we're a super PAC. We're American Opposition. I'm Carlos. Pretty easy to find on the social media. And yeah, and email contact@americanopposition.org. Every email gets read. So yeah, we have an amazing team. We work uniquely. Our team members don't know each other unless it's absolutely necessary, because of our security posture.
Sure.
So basically, I am the only person who is aware of all the members of our organization. That said, in some ways, it actually creates really nice flowy states because the bureaucracy is less. It's weird.
Yeah.
In some ways, it actually works beautifully, and I never want to work any other way. The sad thing is for me that I'm at the center of that, so I interface with everybody about everything all the time, and
Sure.
that makes it a little bit difficult. But yeah, we're out there, man. We are. We want to build an app so that we can direct our direct actions and our campaign season actions. And we want to do a national billboard campaign I'm super excited about. It's called the Trump Scorecard. And it's like day one versus now. And it's just where things were, where they are. And I want to put it up in 5,000 digital billboards across the country. Red numbers for the worst ones, green numbers for the better ones. And we're just going to be honest with Americans. Here's where things were when he took office. Here's where they are now.
Yeah.
If some price is lower, it's going to be green on his side. I'm not here to interpret or to manipulate.
Right.
But the reality is that once people look at the numbers as they are, every day on their drive to work and every day on their drive home, they're just seeing the red under Trump under now and all the green under then, they will realize that we are not bullshitting them.
Yeah.
The dude is destroying America.
For
And the
real.
fact that some people are not aware enough to understand the destruction doesn't mean it's not happening. And like osmosis, what I'd like to do is to put those billboards up for as long as he's in office, so that eventually they go, I should check this out, and just search for what's happened to prices or what's happened to whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Employment, massive unemployment numbers, all that stuff. Because honestly, Donald Trump is our biggest asset. He is super incompetent. He's actually has no way back. He doesn't know how to fix it.
Right.
So he doesn't have a way to repair. He can only destroy, which is a good thing because it makes it super easy to show people that he's flawed if you know how to message it properly and if you have a budget and some good ads and all the shit I want to do. But on the flip side, it means that we have to stop him before the destruction gets so bad that we can't repair it.
Right.
But Donald Trump is the most incompetent president in American history. And in some ways, that's helping us because there is no affirmative case for Donald Trump. There is not a single thing today that is better than it was when he took office, like factually.
Yeah.
And so, so that's going to be a $3.5 million budget. That's like 50% of our total budget is just that one campaign. But I firmly believe that part of what we haven't done is said the simple things simply.
Yeah.
And robbed him because he manufactures bullshit through repetition. But
Oh.
if you remove the undergirding thing there,
Yeah.
you also rob him of that ability, which I think is a huge, it's a
And
huge
even-
next step.
Even like to add to the frustration is he has said, oh, that was a campaign trail. You say whatever
Right.
you want on the campaign trail.
Right. No, and part of it is
He's
that
admitting
if
to lying to you.
But that's the final sell. The final bit of the gambit for a narcissist is to let you in on his process so that you buy the fraud completely.
Yeah.
That's the final bit. If he can get you to agree despite revealing the full game, then he's got you forever. There's no way to back out of it.
Mm.
And part of what we have to interrupt is that psychology.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be done at scale. And for as known as I am for my hat and my glasses and my speeches, we're not going to get anywhere unless we create real unity in this movement and speak with one voice. And that's going to require money. That's going to require campaigns like this. Those billboards, they raise their own money because people see them and think that's effective. That's actually working. It looks different. It's different than what I've seen. Why aren't the Democrats doing it? Let me fund these guys. And at the bottom of the billboard, you say to donate to this billboard, and that feeds your machine. And so these things feed each other, but we need a stepping stone or two or three. And honestly, that's the part that's been frustrating is the fact that people just haven't stepped up. Part of it is maybe that we're succeeding so hard that people assume we're doing okay.
Yeah.
And I've had that problem my whole life where people just look at me and they go, there's no way you need help, bro. Because
you still have a smile on your face.
Right. And look at the woman you're dating and the motorcycle you're riding and all this shit. And I'm like, dude, the motorcycle I borrowed, I'm paying off. I have only 77 payments left. And I know it looks good, but I'm fucked. But my point is, all kidding aside, it's like we need way more support. And I don't know how to get it, but that's my hope. My main hope and my main message to people is we're winning. We're winning. We're winning big. We haven't lost a single campaign. We're ahead of schedule. We're going to do it in years. What the Germans took them 12 years. And at the very least, we're going to neuter him and make him completely ineffective by next year. Please help us do that so that I can get the fuck out of this job and finish this campaign and go back to being an unknown human riding my motorcycles and figuring out how to pay. The sooner I can get a fucking paycheck, the better this situation is going to go for everybody. The country will be better off because we'll be rid of Trump. I will be better off because I will have a fucking paycheck, and I really miss those things, man.
I love it, man.
Anyway, guys,
thank you again
joy,
so much for taking time and hanging out.
Nah,
Like,
dude,
this
it's my
is
day
cool.
off, and honestly, this has been great. a form of therapy just to talk to people who know what we're doing. I appreciate you guys paying attention. I appreciate you guys showing up in all the ways that you do, including the song. But more importantly, just showing up with your hearts and bringing your wisdom and your talent to this. Thank you, really, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of anybody I can speak on behalf of. We really appreciate what you guys are doing. Please keep doing it. Your leadership is needed. Your service. Thank you for having done it and for continuing to serve. Yeah, you guys inspire me. So please keep doing what you're doing. And obviously, you know this, you have an ally here forever. You have ways of reaching me. Please do that. Yeah, it's crazy that we've gone on like 3.5 hours or something. I never talked for this long. So
That's what we do.
Something
Here.
tells me
got
you're
it out
full
of
of
me.
shit. Something tells me you're lying.
no, you know what's funny is people ask me, you know, I live in this tiny home and I'm a recluse. And I'm introverted psychologically.
Yeah.
People say, yeah, you sound like an extrovert. And I'm like, I'm the most introverted a Dominican can get,
Yeah.
but I'm still a Dominican,
Yeah.
which will read as a massive extrovert and a talkative type. But to be honest with you, my preference is to be very quiet and to sit by myself and to read, especially in this moment, because like so much of this energy draining process, you know, I work so hard every day. And a lot of the fights are unnecessary. They're like fixing internal problems or when people are arguing with each other and that kind of thing. It's a drag, you know? So I need a lot of reset time and I just don't have it because honestly, I took like 2 hours off yesterday and it called it a day off, but it was 2 hours where I took a nap and my phone didn't beep. And I was like, oh my God, that was the most amazing 2 hours of my life. Great. I want to do that again, you know? And I've lost my goddamn mind around. Like, I don't remember the last time I went to see a movie or, you know, and I'm not complaining. I just I wish I could feel the support more so that I could do it better and carve out time and hire the right staff. Cause like we've done this on a shoestring and like we get it done, but it sucks and you're just grinding.
Right.
And I would really appreciate if that condition changed. You know,
we're here for you, brother.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And
Thank
with
you
that,
for having
everybody.
me.
And with that,
Anytime
everybody.
you need me, call me.
Cool. Challenge accepted.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And with that, we out.
Peace.
Coconut Justice.